You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from controlling everything, from fixing every problem, from making your life look perfect on the outside. But if that were true, why do so many people with the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect smile, still lie awake at night? Why does your mind still race when the lights go out? Why do you feel tired even after hours in bed? The truth is, peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from understanding the inside. And for over 2,500 years, Buddhist wisdom has held the key. Not in some temple far away, not in complicated rituals, but in simple truths about your thoughts, your fears, your cravings, and how to let them go. This isn't just another sleep audio. This is ancient truth, spoken gently, to help your mind finally let go, to help your body soften, to help your heart rest. As you listen, something inside you will begin to shift. The noise will fade, the tension will melt, and in its place there will be stillness, a kind you may not have felt in a long time. Tonight, you're not just falling asleep, you're coming home to yourself. Calm, present, free. Are you ready to begin? You're still here. That means something inside you wants more than just sleep. Maybe it's rest, real rest. Not just for your body, but for the mind that doesn't stop. For the thoughts that spin quietly behind closed eyes. For the worry that pretends to be planning, but never brings peace. You're not broken, you're human. And the teachings you're about to hear were made for humans just like you. For minds that think too much, for hearts that grip too tightly, for nights that feel too long. There is a reason you feel this tension at night, a reason the stillness brings out the noise. And it starts with a chain, a silent chain, made of habits you never chose, but repeat every day. This is where the Buddhist teaching of dependent origination begins, and this is where your freedom begins too. In the time of the Buddha, there were no neuroscience labs, no therapy rooms, yet the understanding of the human mind was precise, deep, surgical. The law of dependent origination, called Paticca Samuppada, is not a theory. It's a map of how suffering is created in the mind, and more importantly, how it can be undone. At the heart of it is this: nothing arises on its own. Everything is caused, even your anxiety at night, even your overthinking, even the fear that wakes you up at 3 a.m. with your chest tight and your mind spiraling. You didn't choose to be anxious, but something else gave rise to it, and something else gave rise to that, like dominoes falling, thought by thought. It starts with ignorance, not knowing. Not the kind of ignorance that means stupidity, but a blindness, a fog, the part of the mind that forgets how things really work, the part that believes deeply that control brings peace, that outcomes will fix us, that one more achievement, one more relationship, one more solved problem will finally be enough. But it never is. Because when ignorance is there, craving follows. Craving not just for pleasure, but craving for certainty, for answers, for tomorrow to go a certain way, for other people to behave the way you wish, for life to unfold according to your plan. This craving isn't loud. Sometimes it shows up as a gentle ache in your stomach when you think about an upcoming meeting. Sometimes it's the way you scroll endlessly, looking for something you can't name. Sometimes it's the way you rehearse conversations that haven't happened yet. This craving is fed by attachment, upadana in Pali, attachment to identity, roles, control, even the storyline in your head. You think you're just preparing. You think you're being responsible. But underneath it, you're holding on. Tight. To be honest, your body already knows this. The chest gets tight, the breath shortens, your jaw clenches, and you think, if I don't hold it all together, it will all fall apart. But that's the trap, because craving leads to becoming the one who must be prepared, becoming the one who gets it right, becoming the fixer, the controller, the warrior. It's not just a thought, it becomes who you think you are. And when you become something, you fear losing it. Now, sleep becomes a battleground. Because what if tomorrow doesn't go how you need it to? What if the thing you're waiting for doesn't happen? What if you don't wake up feeling ready? This is how anxiety is born, not in a moment, but in a process. Each link giving birth to the next. But here's the beauty. When you see the chain, you can stop it. You don't have to fight anxiety. You don't even have to fix it. You just stop feeding the next link. You meet craving, and you don't obey. You feel the urge to control, and you don't follow. You notice the thought, and you let it float. You don't push it away. You don't make it wrong. You simply see it for what it is, just a ripple, not the ocean. The Buddha never said suffering was a punishment. He said it was a misunderstanding. We believe we need to chase comfort, avoid pain, control outcomes. But that belief is what makes us tired. That belief is the reason peace feels far away. The mind wants to think its way to safety, but safety isn't in the future. It's here, now. In the breath you are taking, in the way your body is slowly relaxing with each word, in the stillness that opens when you let go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving space. Space for life to unfold. Space for you to rest without needing all the answers tonight. Space for the world to move without your grip. Because here's something your worry doesn't know. You don't have to be in control to be okay. You don't have to know what tomorrow brings to sleep deeply tonight. You don't have to fix the future to deserve peace right now. The teaching of dependent origination shows us this, that if we interrupt just one link in the chain, the whole pattern collapses. You don't have to undo your past. You don't have to rewire everything overnight. You only need to see the craving when it arises, and not build a house in it, not build an identity in it, not call it me, because worry always begins with me. What will happen to me? Will I be okay? Will I succeed? Fail? Be seen? Be rejected? But if there's no fixed self, who exactly is worrying? Who exactly needs to be protected? Who is being threatened by tomorrow? This is not a riddle, it's a doorway, a soft place where you can set the burden down. The mind tries to hold everything, but the Dharma teaches you to release. Release the grip of expectation. Release the storyline of what if. Release the belief that you're not safe unless everything is certain. Your body is tired because your mind is always running. But what if you didn't have to run anymore? What if you could sit, breathe, and say, right now, I don't know, and that's okay. This is not passivity, it's wisdom. It's what arises when you stop clinging to control, when you stop mistaking your thoughts for truth, when you stop chasing sleep and start receiving rest. Anxiety is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It shows you where you still believe you must fight, where you still believe you're alone, where you still believe that peace must be earned. But peace isn't earned, it's revealed. And it's revealed in the moments where you let things be. Let the day be what it was. Let tomorrow be what it will. Let your breath be enough for now. This is the end of the chain, not because the world is fixed, but because your heart no longer needs it to be. Right now, feel the bed supporting your body. Feel your chest rising and falling without effort. Notice the sounds around you. Notice how none of them are a threat. You are not in danger. You are not behind. You are not late for your life. You are here, alive, breathing, and ready to rest. The Buddha said, "When this is, that is. When this ceases, that ceases." And now you have begun to cease. Cease the clinging. Cease the resistance. Cease the endless loop of becoming. You are not the one holding it all together, and you never were. So tonight, let the chain fall. Let the wheel stop turning. Let the story soften. Sleep is not the absence of thought. It's the presence of peace. And peace begins when you stop reaching for it. Let this be your practice. Let this be your permission to stop trying, to stop proving, to stop chasing, and to simply rest. You've already taken the first step, and that's enough. Stay with your breath. Stay with this stillness. Stay here. You are safe. You are loved. And the night no longer needs your worry. And now that the weight has softened and your body knows how to rest without carrying tomorrow, we turn toward something deeper, something most people spend their lives avoiding. Not because it's dangerous, but because they believe looking at it will take their peace. They're wrong, because there is one truth more powerful than anxiety, more freeing than control, and more comforting than certainty. The truth that everything ends, including this moment, including you. This is not something to fear. This is something to understand, to feel, to work with. This is Maranasati, the contemplation of death. A practice used not to scare the mind, but to calm it. Because when you truly understand that you will die, something beautiful happens. Your grip loosens, your priorities rearrange, the noise fades, and peace, the kind that no external success can offer, begins to rise quietly from within. Maranasati is not morbid, it is not dark, it is clear, honest, liberating. The Buddha taught it not to cause despair, but to end it. Because when you fully realize that your time is limited, every moment becomes more precious. And paradoxically, instead of panic, you find relief. You stop delaying your peace. You stop believing there will be a perfect time to feel okay. Because if not now, when? Most anxiety is rooted in an illusion of endlessness. The belief that there will always be more time, that you'll eventually catch up, that rest can be earned later. But that illusion keeps you tense, always waiting, always chasing. When you remember death, that illusion breaks, and what replaces it is presence. Contemplating death brings you closer to life. You see what really matters. You see how many of your worries are built on things that, in the end, won't even exist. The deadlines, the status, the fears about what people think, they all fade under the light of impermanence. And when they fade, your breath becomes enough. Your body becomes home. Sleep becomes sacred. To contemplate death doesn't mean to obsess over it. It means to hold it gently in your awareness, like a quiet companion. To remind yourself without fear that this moment is not guaranteed, that this breath is a gift, Not everyone who went to sleep last night woke up. Not everyone who made plans for tomorrow will get to see them unfold. And knowing this doesn't make you hopeless. It wakes you up. The mind has a tendency to wander into regrets and fears, but when death is kept close in the heart, the mind slows down, not because it is scared, but because it understands there is no time to waste on noise, there is no time to waste on pretending or proving or performing. You begin to live, even in the quietest of moments, with meaning. People often think the thought of death will steal their peace, but it is distraction that steals peace. It is illusion that creates fear. Death, when fully seen, brings a stillness so profound that the mind has nowhere left to run, nothing to chase, nothing to protect. In that space, you can finally rest. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped trying to make it permanent. The body, too, softens with this understanding. There is no need to hold yourself tight through the night. There is no benefit in clenching your jaw over a tomorrow that might never come. When you accept your mortality, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, honest way, you begin to relax. You stop demanding guarantees, and that's when sleep comes, like a river that no longer needs to be pushed. Throughout Buddhist history, monks and nuns have meditated in charnel grounds. Surrounded by decay, they didn't look away. They sat with the reality that this body, too, would one day return to the earth. Not as punishment, but as practice. To see through the illusion of permanence, to understand that clinging is suffering, and to discover in that truth a peace that is unshakable. You do not need to sit among bones to receive this teaching. You only need to remember, quietly, gently, that you are passing through, that all forms change, that no experience lasts, that this thought will fade, that this night will end, that even the restless energy in your chest has a time limit. When you embrace death, not as something that will happen later, but as a presence woven into every moment, you awaken to the truth that every single breath is a blessing, every exhale is a release, every blink is sacred, and every night you get to rest is a miracle not to be overlooked. This teaching does not invite fear, it dissolves it, because fear is born from pretending we are not vulnerable. Fear grows when we think we can outrun time. But death puts things in their right place. It reminds you that you do not need to do everything. You do not need to be everything. You only need to be here. You see, anxiety often comes from overimportance. The belief that your mistakes are fatal, that your future is fragile, that your life is one misstep away from collapse. But when you reflect on death, you understand that life was never about perfection. It was always about presence, and presence can never be taken away. It can only be forgotten. But now, you are remembering. Right now, you are lying here with a body that breathes, with a heart that still beats, with a mind that can listen and understand. That, in itself, is extraordinary. There are no guarantees you'll get another night like this. And that's not a reason to panic. That's a reason to be kind. Kind to yourself. Kind to this moment. Kind to the need for rest. Let go of the idea that death is something far off. It is not distant, but it is not cruel either. It is simply the way life moves. All things change, and in that constant change, you are reminded that grasping is pointless. Control is an illusion. What brings peace is not having control, but letting go of the need for it. Buddhists often say, death is certain, The time of death is uncertain. Those words are not meant to depress you. They are meant to set you free. Free from delay, free from worry, free from trying to stretch time as if it owes you something. Time owes you nothing. But this moment, this gentle breath, offers you everything. There's a stillness that arises when you stop trying to outrun the truth. When you stop pretending that life is infinite. When you sit quietly with the reality that your time is unknown, your legacy unfinished, and your story still unfolding. That stillness is not fear. It's clarity. Most people don't want to think about death. They believe it will take their joy. But the truth is, most people are unhappy because they live like they're going to live forever. They postpone joy. They delay peace. They trade rest for achievement. But when you remember death, you return to simplicity. You don't need to chase anything tonight. You don't need to fix anything. You only need to be here, breathing, soft, open. There is a tenderness in remembering you will die. It humbles the ego. It silences the noise. It reminds you that no status, no possession, no amount of approval can protect you from impermanence. And that's okay, because you never needed protection, you needed perspective. Maranasati is not about morbidity, it's about meaning. And meaning comes when you realize how fragile life is, not in fear, but in gratitude. You are not entitled to another morning, and so tonight becomes sacred. Your bed becomes holy ground, your breath becomes a prayer. Not a desperate plea, but a quiet thank you. If this was your last night, what would you worry about? What would still matter? Who would you be trying to impress? And what would you finally let go of? The answers to those questions are the doorway to peace. Because peace comes when your life becomes simple again. When it's not about what you'll do tomorrow or how others see you, but about how you treat the only thing you truly have, this moment. Maranasati brings you back to that, again and again, until the noise dissolves, until the breath slows, until sleep becomes a soft surrender, not an escape. You do not need to be afraid of letting go. You've done it 1,000 times already. Every breath you take is a letting go of the last one. Every night you fall asleep is a letting go of who you were that day. And one day, when the final letting go comes, it will not be a punishment. It will be a return, like the ocean welcoming a wave. Tonight, let yourself fall into that rhythm. Let yourself soften, not because everything is solved, but because you see clearly. You know what's real. You know what matters. And most of the things that kept you awake last week don't matter now. They never did. This teaching is not about thinking. It is about feeling. Feeling your way back to truth. Feeling the weight drop from your chest. Feeling the tenderness of being here, even briefly. Feeling the stillness that death teaches better than anything else. If your time were shorter than you thought, would you still waste it on worry? Would you still hold grudges? Would you still rush past your own breath to chase something out there? Or would you pause? Would you stay? Would you say, thank you for this moment, even if it's imperfect? Maranasati invites you to answer with your presence, to stop needing life to be different before you can love it, to stop needing the future to be certain before you can rest. There is peace in remembering, not because death is beautiful, but because death is true. And truth, when met with compassion, always leads to peace. Let your breath slow now. Let your thoughts loosen. Let this moment be the only thing you serve tonight. You do not need to hold on to anything. The practice has already begun, and you are already free. You've now let go of the need to control tomorrow. You've rested in the truth that nothing lasts forever, and you've made peace with what cannot be changed. But even after all this, there's something subtle that still lingers. A residue. It's not fear. It's not craving. It's the quiet weight of your own actions, the conversations you had, the choices you made, the words you spoke without thinking, the ones you didn't speak but wish you had. What remains unsettled in the mind at night often comes from the day that's just passed, not from what happened to you, but from how you responded. And that's where karma enters, not as punishment, not as fate, but as a mirror. Karma, in the simplest sense, is cause and effect. Thought becomes intention. Intention becomes action. Action becomes a result. And that result echoes. Sometimes loud, sometimes silent, but always present. When the day ends and the world grows quiet, that echo is easier to hear. It's what makes the mind restless even when the room is calm. It's what keeps the heart heavy even when there's nothing urgent left to do. But karma is not a force outside you. It is you. It's the ripple of your choices, and because of that, it can also be cleared. Closing the karmic ledger each night isn't about judgment. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness. Quiet reflection, not shame. Clarity, not perfection. The mind wants to pretend the day is over simply because the clock says so. But the heart knows better. The heart knows what's unresolved. That's why nightly reflection matters, not for punishment, but for release. Begin by remembering the day without analyzing. Let it unfold like a story. From the first word you spoke to the last interaction you had, bring it to mind without trying to fix anything. Just observe. What mood were you in when you woke up? What was the first thing you did? How did you treat your own thoughts? Did you meet them with resistance or care? Then move gently into your actions. What you did, how you moved through spaces, how you treated others, even when no one was watching. Karma is not just about big decisions. It's in the smallest things. The tone you used with a stranger, the thoughts you allowed to grow in silence, the energy you carried into a room, the pause before you reacted, or the lack of it. All of it matters, because all of it plants seeds. And those seeds don't disappear when the sun goes down. They stay, unless you release them. Reflection is how you release them. It's how you say to your own heart, I see what happened. I see what I carried. And now I let it go. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. Look at your intentions more than your outcomes, because sometimes your words were clumsy, but your heart meant well. Sometimes you got it wrong, but you were trying to protect something. When you understand your own motives clearly, even mistakes become teachings. Now look at your speech. The Buddha taught that speech creates powerful karma. Words can heal or harm, open or close. Review what you said, not just what was heard, but how it was offered. Was it helpful? Was it kind? Was it necessary? If not, acknowledge it. Not to punish yourself, but to become more skillful. Every night is a chance to refine your speech, to become more aware of its power, and to grow more intentional with your voice. Next, turn inward. Not just to what you did, but to how you responded. Where was there resistance? Where did anger flare up? Where did you fall into old patterns? Not because you're flawed, but because you're still learning. There is no peace in pretending you handled everything well. There is deep peace in admitting where you didn't and choosing to do better tomorrow. And here's the secret. When you reflect honestly, the mind begins to settle, because guilt thrives in avoidance. Restlessness feeds on unfinished business. But the moment you face yourself without defense, that energy dissolves. It's like clearing the desk before going to bed. The tasks are not erased, but the clutter is gone. What remains is clarity. Many people lie awake at night not because they're afraid of the future, but because they're avoiding the past. Not because their life is in danger, but because their integrity feels slightly out of alignment. Karma is not only about what happens to you, it's about how whole you feel with yourself. The less divided you are inside, the deeper you rest. So each night, bring yourself back into wholeness. Let reflection be the bridge. This isn't about keeping score. It's about reconnecting with your own values. It's a way of asking, did I live today in alignment with what matters to me? Was I truthful, kind, generous, mindful? And where I wasn't, can I forgive myself and start fresh tomorrow? The Buddha said that even a single drop of water, again and again, can fill a large vessel. So too can small actions, repeated daily, create a life of clarity and peace. Reflection is one of those drops. It adds up. It changes you, slowly, gently, without pressure. There's also a deeper reason this practice matters before sleep. When you don't clear the day's karma, it often continues in your dreams. The mind keeps processing, the heart keeps speaking. You wake up feeling like you didn't really rest. But when you face the day's events honestly, they no longer need to follow you into the night. Some people try to silence the mind with noise, scrolling, entertainment, distraction. But silence is not something to be avoided. It's something to be entered with care. Reflection prepares you for silence. It clears the fog so you can step into rest without baggage. In Buddhist monastic life, the end of the day often includes confession, not in the religious sense, but as a simple acknowledgement. I see what I've done. I see where I caused harm. I commit to awareness. It's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's just honest. And that honesty is where true peace begins. You can do this too, not formally, not with ritual, just with sincerity. Sitting quietly in your bed, hands on your body, heart open, you can say, "This was my day. These were my choices. These are the things I'm grateful for. These are the things I release." Gratitude matters too, not as a way to ignore your mistakes, but to remember the goodness. Because karma is not only about wrong action, it's about every kind word, every moment of patience, every small act of generosity you offered. Those matter. Acknowledge them. Celebrate them. They are seeds of peace. Water them. Even when the day was difficult, there was still beauty, still effort, still goodness. Don't let the mind fixate only on what went wrong. Let it also remember what went right. The moments you paused, the times you chose kindness when you could have chosen defense. The quiet victories no one saw, they count, they always count. As you reflect, be gentle. Your mind doesn't need a judge, it needs a witness. Your heart doesn't need shame, it needs space. Let your reflection be like a soft cloth wiping the dust from a mirror, not scrubbing, not forcing, just clearing what doesn't need to be carried into sleep. Some people think karma is fixed, that if they've made mistakes, they must suffer. But that's not true. The Buddha taught that karma can be purified, not by hiding it, but by seeing it clearly and choosing differently. Reflection is how purification begins, not by being perfect, but by being present. Tonight, let yourself be present, not just to your breath, but to your own story, not to relive it, but to close it. Let this day come to an end in your heart before it ends in time. Say what needs to be said in your mind. Forgive who needs to be forgiven, even if it's you. Release what doesn't belong to this moment. When you do this, sleep becomes easier, not because your mind is empty, but because your heart is no longer crowded. You don't need to control your thoughts. You only need to make peace with them, and peace comes through clarity. The ledger is never about balance in a mathematical sense. It's about balance in the soul. Does your day feel closed, or is something left open? If it's open, close it with intention. You don't need to fix it. You only need to see it. And in that seeing, healing begins. Let the breath deepen now. Let the body sink. Let the story of this day soften in the background. You have seen yourself. You have honored the truth. And that is enough. There is nothing more you need to carry. The karmic echoes are quiet now. The heart has been heard. You are ready for sleep. Not just as rest, but as return to stillness, to clarity, to the peace that comes when nothing is left unsaid within you. This day is done. Let it be complete, and let yourself begin again with ease. You've now stepped into a space of honesty. You've seen your day clearly. You've touched your intentions and actions without turning away. And something has already softened. But even with clarity, the heart may still cling. The mind may still replay moments. Some things you said, some things left undone, a plan that didn't unfold, an emotion that lingered longer than you wanted. You've reflected, you've acknowledged, and yet, part of you might still hold on. That's because awareness is only one part of release. The other part is deeper, the willingness to let go. Not just of what you did, but of the story you've attached to it. This is where anicca becomes your guide, not as an abstract idea, but as a living truth. Anicca means impermanence. It's one of the core insights the Buddha taught, not just to make sense of life, but to transform how we relate to it. Everything changes, not just the world around you, but the stories you carry inside. The pain you felt this morning, the joy that surprised you, the moment of anger that flared and faded, the plan that didn't go as you hoped. None of it is fixed, none of it stays, and that's not a problem. That's the path. So often, the struggle isn't what happened. It's the way we hold on to what happened. The mind loves to repeat things, not because it's cruel, but because it thinks repetition brings control. If you replay the conversation, maybe next time it will end differently. If you rethink the plan, maybe the result will feel better. If you hold tightly enough, maybe you won't feel regret. But holding on doesn't free you from the past. It ties you to it. And impermanence is what cuts the rope. When you realize that all things pass, your relationship to the day begins to shift. You stop trying to carve permanence into what was always temporary. That awkward exchange at work, the tension with a loved one, the opportunity you missed. They came, they left, and your clinging is the only thing that kept them here. Anicca doesn't ask you to deny your experience. It invites you to stop turning experience into identity. The emotion you felt wasn't wrong. It was just passing. The disappointment didn't define you. It visited. The plan that failed didn't collapse your worth. It simply ended. Every moment contains the seed of its own disappearance. When you understand this deeply, you start to release not by effort, but by insight. There is nothing to force, only something to see clearly. Tonight, let that clarity guide you. As you lie down, scan through your day one more time. Not to judge, not to analyze, just to see what you're still holding. Not the actions, you've already looked at those, but the attachments. What part of you is still stuck in a moment that's already gone? Where do you feel the tightness of clinging? What would it feel like to soften there? You don't have to let go by pushing. You can let go by seeing that there's nothing to hold. That memory will fade. That feeling will change. That unfinished task will find its place. You are not frozen in time. Life is not a fixed painting. It's a river. You step into it, and it keeps moving, with or without your permission. Sometimes you cling to stories because they feel like protection. If you let go of the anger, will it mean what happened was okay? If you release the disappointment, will it mean you no longer care? If you allow the plan to dissolve, does it mean you gave up? But none of those things are true. Letting go is not forgetting. It's remembering what is real now. The now is where healing happens. But if you are pulled backward by unfinished stories, the now gets blurred. You miss what is possible because you're clinging to what was. That's why impermanence is not only a truth, it's a medicine, a way of loosening what was never yours to hold forever. Every emotional event from your day, no matter how strong, has already begun to fade. Your awareness brings it into light, but anicca allows it to dissolve. If you let it. Not everything needs closure in the form of resolution. Sometimes closure comes when you stop trying to fix the past and allow it to be incomplete. Incomplete is not broken. It's just what happens when life moves faster than your plans, when people respond in ways you didn't expect, when the world, in its unpredictable rhythm, moves beyond your design. When you understand impermanence, you stop resisting this movement. You begin to trust it. Anicca teaches that pain changes, but it also teaches that pleasure changes. This can feel disappointing at first. Why can't joy stay forever? But that's the beauty. Because joy is impermanent, you learn to appreciate it. Because sorrow is impermanent, you learn not to fear it. You stop grasping at good moments and fighting bad ones. You stop turning today's stories into your permanent self. You are not the tiredness you felt at noon. You are not the frustration in that meeting. You are not the regret over what you didn't finish. You are not your to-do list, not your emotions, not your titles. You are the one watching it all arise and fade, the stillness behind the movement, the space that does not cling. Tonight, you get to rest in that space, the space that doesn't need stories to be complete, the space that doesn't argue with reality, the space that welcomes impermanence as a friend, not a threat. To live with awareness of anicca is not to be detached from life. It is to be more fully in it, because you no longer need it to be perfect. You stop needing things to last in order to matter. You start seeing value in the very fact that things change. Because if this heaviness will pass, then you don't have to fight it. And if this moment of peace will pass, you can cherish it more fully. Clarity grows in this understanding. Even your identity changes. The story you told yourself this morning may already feel different tonight. The doubt you carried may feel lighter. The confidence you lacked may have flickered back in, and none of it is wrong. You are not fixed. You are a process. When you stop expecting consistency from yourself, you begin to soften. You let yourself evolve. You stop labeling every emotion as truth. You allow yourself to be new. This is freedom. Not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom that comes from needing nothing to stay the same. You begin to live in harmony with the nature of things, like the tree that sheds its leaves without regret, like the river that never holds itself in place. The pain of today might feel sharp now, but it's already different than it was an hour ago. And tomorrow, it will be softer still. The unfinished conversation, the unanswered message, the unmet goal, none of them are static. What's left open doesn't have to be a burden. It can be a doorway to patience, to gentleness, to growth. Growth doesn't happen because you hold tighter. It happens because you let life move through you without resistance. That's what anicca teaches you. And when you live that truth, rest is no longer something you chase. It becomes natural, because there is nothing left to hold. The mind will try to bring back today's stories. It will replay words, replay plans, replay emotions. Not because it's trying to hurt you, but because it doesn't yet trust that letting go is safe. But you can teach it, slowly, gently, by whispering back, "That moment has passed. That thought is fading. That plan will evolve. That emotion has served its time." Even the body changes as you begin to let go. The breath deepens, the muscles soften, the nervous system settles. Because when the mind stops replaying stories, the body no longer needs to protect you from them. Sleep becomes not a battle, but a return, a coming home. You're not who you were this morning, and that's a blessing. You've changed, grown, released. And even if the day brought pain, it didn't define you. It simply visited, like weather, like wind, like waves. Nothing is stuck. Not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your path. When you accept this, you stop needing to rewrite the day. You let it rest as it is. You let yourself rest as you are. Now take a breath and feel the truth in your body. The shift that's already happening. The soft untangling of what doesn't need to stay. The subtle release of everything that can't follow you into sleep. This is the power of anicca, not just as a teaching, but as an experience. Let the mind rest in that. Let the heart rest in that. Let the story of today dissolve without needing to be completed. You've done what you could. You've seen what needed to be seen, and now you let it go. What's done is done. What's left will find its time, and you are free to rest. Now that the stories of today have dissolved, now that your breath flows more easily and the mind is less tangled in the loops of memory, something else becomes clear. Emptiness is not the same as loneliness. You've let go of the attachments, the unfinished plans, the emotional weight of the day, but in the silence that remains, another need begins to stir quietly in the background. A need not for stimulation, not for more doing, but for presence. A sense that even as you rest in solitude, you are not meant to walk this path entirely alone. There is strength in being with yourself, but there is also peace in being accompanied, not physically, not socially, but spiritually. This is where the practice of spiritual companionship begins. In Buddhism, Sangha means community, a gathering of those who walk the path of awakening. It traditionally refers to monks and nuns, but its deeper meaning goes beyond structure. It points to those beings, living or not, who embody wisdom, who hold space for truth, who walk beside you in silence. You may never meet them in person, they may not be in the room, but they are near. Their presence lives in teachings, in memory, in the feeling of steadiness that arises when you remember you are not the first to go through this. The Buddha walked this path. So did his disciples. So have countless beings across time and space who sat with fear and chose love, who faced impermanence and found peace, who met suffering and responded with compassion. Their bodies may be gone, but their awareness remains. You do not have to be religious to feel this. You only have to know what it means to be seen, even when no one is looking. To feel held, even when no hand touches yours. The mind can recreate stress through memory, but it can also recreate comfort. It can build safety through attention. You've done it 1,000 times without realizing, remembering someone's voice when you needed strength, hearing the words of a teacher long after they've left the room, finding calm in the thought of someone who helped you feel seen. These are not fantasies. These are inner resources. They live inside you, and tonight they're here to help you sleep. You can access the Sangha anytime. And in this quiet hour, when the outer world has slowed and the inner world is ready to release, this is the perfect time. The Sangha you invite may take different forms. It could be a teacher whose words brought you clarity, a mentor who once believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, a wise elder whose presence made you feel calm without saying much. Or perhaps it's someone you've never met but feel connected to, a lineage holder, a writer, a guide whose life embodied the values you now long to deepen. You don't have to see their faces clearly. You don't need to hear their voices. All you need is the quiet willingness to be accompanied. You don't ask anything of them. You don't need answers. You only let them be near, resting around you like a circle of calm, not watching, not judging, just here, witnessing your stillness, supporting your release. This practice isn't about escape. It's not about pretending someone will fix things for you. It's about remembering that truth never walks alone, and neither do you. In your moments of struggle, someone else has been there too. In your moments of doubt, someone else has once whispered the same questions into the dark. You are not separate from the great stream of seekers, healers, and teachers. You are part of it. As you lie here, you can begin to sense their presence. Quiet, grounded, spacious. The air feels fuller, but not heavy. There's a subtle warmth, like the room itself has become sacred. Their presence doesn't ask anything from you. You don't need to perform, explain, or defend yourself. There is no pressure to impress, only permission to rest more deeply than you usually allow. If your mind starts to wander, it's okay. Just return to the sense of being supported. Let the thought pass and lean back into the feeling that you are not alone. That wise ones are holding space for you to surrender, that your vulnerability is not a flaw, but a doorway to deeper connection. This Sangha isn't limited to humans. You may feel the presence of qualities instead: compassion, patience, courage. These too can be companions, not as abstract words, but as living energies that surround and soothe. Compassion sitting at your left shoulder, clarity at your right, peace at your feet, steadiness behind you, trust above you. They are not fantasies, they are states of mind cultivated by practice, summoned by attention. As you rest in this circle, your nervous system begins to recalibrate. You stop feeling like you must be alert to survive the night. You no longer need to scan for threat in the silence. The body learns, through repetition, that safety can exist even when the future is unknown. That rest can be sacred even when the day was hard. That sleep is allowed even when your life is still unfolding. Spiritual companionship is not about being rescued. It's about being reminded. Reminded that you belong. That you are part of something larger than your thoughts. That your heart's longing for peace is shared by every being who's ever lived. When you know that, loneliness doesn't hold the same power. Isolation becomes solitude. Solitude becomes refuge. Many people carry the belief that they must do everything alone, that asking for help, even silently, is weakness, that resting in the presence of others is dependency. But this belief is not truth. It's conditioning. The truth is, interconnection is your nature. Dependence is not failure. It is life expressing itself through relationship. And the most powerful relationships are sometimes the quietest ones. Tonight, let yourself lean into this truth. You are not meant to hold everything by yourself. You were never asked to. There are hands you cannot see, holding space for your rest. There are minds that have walked this road before you, lighting the path not by instruction, but by being. You may feel tears arise. That is not sadness. That is your system exhaling. That is the armor loosening. That is the soul remembering that it never needed to carry so much for so long in silence. Let the Sangha surround you now, not with noise, not with answers, just with presence. Silent, steady presence, the kind that says, rest is safe, stillness is welcome. You are not too much, you are not too far. You are simply here, and that is enough. If thoughts rise, let them be held in this circle. You don't need to resolve them. You don't need to resist them. They are seen, they are softened, they are allowed to float and fade like clouds in a wide sky. This is not about worship. This is about connection, not through belief, but through shared experience, through the felt knowing that others have sat where you now lie. Others have trembled with the same fears. Others have sought sleep with the same weight in their chest, and they too were held. Some of them are holding you now, not because you called, but because presence does not need a reason to offer itself. In the Dharma, compassion is not earned. It is given, freely, always. Let your body receive it. Let your breath grow softer. Let the edges of your being blur into the circle. The lines between you and them don't need to be so sharp. You are not separate from the peace you seek. You are not outside the presence you long for. You are inside it now, breathing in it, resting in it. When morning comes, you will rise again. You will carry your work, speak your truth, meet your day. But for now, there is nothing to carry, nothing to solve. The Sangha holds you, the teachings protect you, and the night welcomes your surrender. You are not alone, you never were. Let the silence deepen, let the presence remain. Let your heart rest in the companionship that asks for nothing and offers everything. Now you may sleep. Not because the world is perfect, but because you are no longer holding it alone. The stillness has deepened now. You've allowed yourself to feel supported. not just by silence, but by something ancient and wise. You've remembered that presence doesn't always speak out loud, and that real companionship sometimes needs no words at all. But even with that comfort, there may still be one thread the mind refuses to loosen, a pattern that clings just beneath awareness, the momentum of becoming, the subtle push to be someone, even while falling asleep. It shows up in the form of mental rehearsal, roles you don't realize you're still wearing, identities you think you have to keep holding together, even as your eyes begin to close. There's the worker, still calculating, the parent, still anticipating, the friend, still wondering what they should have said, the inner judge, still keeping score. These aren't thoughts, they're identities being reinforced. They create the shape of who you think you are, and that shape, when it hardens, becomes suffering. Bhava means becoming. It's a link in the chain of dependent origination that often goes unnoticed. Because it doesn't scream, it hums, a quiet background hum of identity building. I am the one who must succeed. I am the one who failed today. I am the one who fixes. I am the one who needs to know. I am the one who needs to be seen. Without realizing it, the mind spends every hour reinforcing this idea of self, and when night comes, it doesn't stop. It just changes tone. That's why sleep can feel like resistance. The process of becoming doesn't want to be interrupted. It wants to finish its loop. The mind wants to complete the role it's playing before it can release into rest. But bhava doesn't ever complete itself. That's the trap. Becoming is endless. The role always extends. The story always expands. The mind always finds one more scene to act out. And so you stay awake, not because your body isn't tired, but because your identity is still performing. To fall asleep deeply, you have to step out of the role, not destroy it, not reject it. Just take off the costume. Let go of the idea that you have to continue being anyone at all right now. You are not required to be yourself. You don't have to carry forward the image that got you through the day. You don't need to be the version of you that earned approval, that stayed composed, that kept it all together. You are allowed to dissolve. When the Buddha spoke of bhava, he pointed to this subtle engine that drives the need to exist in a certain way. It's not the same as simply being. It's becoming, a reaching, a shaping, a continuous construction. This process is not bad. It helps us function in the world. But when it goes unchecked, it becomes heavy, especially at night, when nothing else is required of you, but your system still insists on being someone. This is where awareness becomes medicine. Begin to notice which version of yourself is trying to survive this moment. Are you still the thinker, the planner, the caretaker, the achiever? What is the mind holding on to? What image is being protected, repeated, maintained, even as the rest of you longs to rest? You can interrupt this pattern, not by force, but by clarity. The moment you recognize bhava in action, the chain begins to weaken. The momentum slows. You don't have to fight to become someone else. You just stop becoming, right here, right now. The identity pauses, and behind it, there's space. You might feel that letting go of identity is dangerous. Who will protect you if you're not the one in charge? Who will make sure everything is okay? But this fear is built into bhava. It convinces you that without a role, you're nothing. But the truth is, without a role, you're free. Freedom doesn't mean disappearance. It means resting in being without the pressure of becoming. It means allowing your breath to exist without labels. It means letting your awareness return to a neutral state, not defined, not limited, not fixed. This is the ground from which real sleep arises. Not sleep as shutdown, but sleep as return. Start by noticing the tension in the body that corresponds to the role you're still playing. The clenched jaw of the thinker. The lifted shoulders of the responsible one. The tight chest of the one who must be right. These physical cues show you where bhava is still active. When you feel them, soften. Let that role lose its grip. Let the body be just a body again. Let the mind be just space. You don't need to assign meaning to every event from the day. You don't need to finish every thought. The need to complete the story is part of bhava. The need to tie up loose ends before sleep is not a necessity. It's a pattern, and it can be broken. Let yourself become no one. Let your name fall away. Let the titles fade. Let the pressures stop circling. Right now, you are not required to be anything for anyone. You are not a project. You are not a role. You are not the sum of your decisions. You are simply awareness resting in form. Even the idea of being spiritual can be dropped. Even the one trying to practice well can step aside. Perfectionism sneaks into every identity. The one who meditates, the one who grows, the one who improves. Let that one rest too. No progress is needed now. No insight must be gained. You are not here to achieve transformation. You are here to sleep, and that is enough. Bhava creates suffering not because identity is bad, but because identity is impermanent. And the more tightly you grip it, the more painful its changes become. The version of you from yesterday may no longer exist. That's okay. The version of you from tomorrow has not arrived. That's okay too. In this in-between space, you are whole. The mind may protest. It may say, but I need to be someone. I need to be understood. I need to continue the story. You can thank the mind for its loyalty. You can appreciate its effort, but you don't need to follow it. Thoughts about self are like clouds. They appear, they form meaning, they dissolve. You are not the cloud. You are the sky that sees it all. This seeing is enough. The body breathes. The awareness notices. No doing is required. No becoming is needed. And slowly, without pressure, the mind stops spinning. The roles lose their stickiness. The stories unravel, and sleep approaches not as an interruption to life, but as life returning to itself. Each night you have this chance to unhook, to release, to allow yourself to dissolve into a state where no one has to be in charge. The world will not fall apart because you stop becoming. In fact, the world keeps moving precisely because everything lets go in its time. There's nothing wrong with the roles you play. There's nothing wrong with being a parent, a teacher, a leader, a student. The problem arises when these roles become cages, when they follow you into rest, when they refuse to let go. And often, the only reason they refuse is because you keep inviting them back. Tonight, choose not to invite them. Thank them, bow to them, and ask them to wait outside the door of sleep. You will return in the morning, but tonight you are free. Bhava thrives in noise, in movement, in narration. When silence is sustained, its power begins to fade. That's why rest is not only healing for the body, It's purification for the mind. The more you rest in stillness, the more bhava begins to loosen. Not forever, not once and for all, but enough to allow spaciousness, enough to let the story pause, enough to let you enter sleep without dragging yourself behind you. Right now, feel what it's like to stop trying to be anything. Let your breath arrive without an agenda. Let the body soften without needing to perform. Let the awareness widen without trying to fix. No label, no shape, just presence. This is not emptiness. This is fullness without form. This is what remains when becoming stops. It is peaceful. It is quiet. It is you, before the roles, before the titles, before the name. And it is from this space that sleep becomes deep. This space where no one is watching, no one is expecting, no one is measuring. There is only the inhale, the exhale, and the soft ground of being that supports it all. You are safe here. You are enough here. And there is nothing more to carry into this night. The story has paused. The becoming has stopped. You have come home. Let go. Breathe. Sleep. You've now let go of the roles, the stories, the need to become. You've returned to the ground of being, where no mask is needed and no identity needs to be protected. But once the silence has settled and the mind begins to soften, something deeper begins to surface, a longing not for more thinking or doing, but for connection. A quiet yearning to feel warmth, to feel belonging, to feel that your heart, in its raw and open state, is not only allowed here, but welcomed. And from that space, the heart doesn't just rest, it begins to shine. This is the point where rest becomes more than physical recovery. It becomes nourishment, not only for the nervous system, but for the deeper layers of the self that seek wholeness. This is where the Brahmaviharas come in, not as abstract principles, but as a living ritual to guide your final steps before sleep. These four qualities, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha, are known as the divine abodes. Not because they are far away or difficult to reach, but because they are places you can rest in. States of the heart that you can return to again and again. They are not ideas, they are practices. And when brought into the night, they have the power to reshape how you relate to your day, your mind, your past, your future, and most importantly, how you relate to yourself as you drift into sleep. Metta is the foundation. Loving kindness, not a feeling you have to force, but a gentle intention. The wish for well-being, for safety, for peace. Begin by offering it to yourself, not in words alone, but in how you hold your attention. Let your inner tone soften. Let the judgment dissolve. Let the inner critic step aside. Say quietly within, "May I be safe. May I be well. May I rest with ease." This is not a performance. It's a remembering that beneath all the striving and doing, you are worthy of care. The mind may try to argue. It may say, "You didn't do enough today to deserve this." That's okay. Offer the wish anyway, even if it feels mechanical at first, even if the heart feels numb. Keep the intention steady. May I be free from harm. May I feel love. May I sleep in peace. And slowly, the heart begins to respond. Because kindness is not something you have to feel to offer. It's something you practice into being. Once metta begins to settle, the heart becomes ready for karuna, compassion, not in the abstract, but in direct response to the pain that still lingers in the system. Begin to bring awareness to any place in the body where tension still resides, any emotion that hasn't quite released, any tightness around the edges of the breath, and meet it with care, not to fix, not to push away, but to acknowledge. This hurts, and that's okay. May this pain soften. May I hold it with gentleness. Compassion doesn't mean indulging in pain. It means creating space for it to be seen and held without fear. You can extend this compassion not only to your own experience, but to others who struggle today. Think of someone else who suffered, whether close or far. A stranger, a friend, someone in conflict, someone unseen. May they be held. May their pain ease. May they feel supported. This isn't about solving their problems. It's about keeping their humanity in your heart. When you move into this kind of reflection, the heart begins to widen. And that widening makes room for the next quality, mudita, sympathetic joy. A difficult practice for many, but one that unlocks an immense source of energy. Let your heart open to the joy of others. Think of someone who felt happiness today, someone who succeeded, someone who laughed, someone who found peace, even if only briefly. Instead of comparison, offer joy. May their joy continue. May it grow. May they feel supported in their goodness. You can also reflect on your own joy, moments of delight, even if small, a kind interaction, a soft moment, a breath that felt deep, a moment of laughter or gratitude or connection. Let yourself remember without clinging, without needing it to last. Just feel it. This was real. This happened. Let the heart feel glad. Not because you are escaping the difficult, but because joy is part of truth too. Joy that is not tied to ownership becomes light. It frees the heart from envy, from resentment, from scarcity. It teaches the nervous system that goodness exists even when times are hard. That joy is not earned. It can arise for anyone, and we can celebrate it as our own. Even when it's not ours personally, it touches something shared within us. The last of the four, and perhaps the most balancing, is upekkha, equanimity. This is the deep, calm knowing that all things rise and pass, that outcomes are uncertain, that what is within your control is limited, that life is not fair in the way the mind wants it to be, and yet it moves in patterns far beyond our understanding. Equanimity doesn't numb you, it steadies you. It allows you to hold both joy and sorrow without being broken by either. It says, I care, but I will not cling. I feel, but I will not collapse. I am present, but I do not need to control. Let this energy wash over you now, a quiet strength, not forceful, not rigid, just steady. Let your body feel it, like a tree in soft wind, grounded, responsive, unshaken. These four qualities together become a bed for the heart. Not just a metaphor, but a real resting place. As you settle into sleep, you can cycle through them gently. No order is required. Let metta hold your breath. Let karuna soften your muscles. Let mudita warm your chest. Let upekkha quiet your thoughts. You don't need to concentrate. Just remember, this is not a method for better sleep. This is sleep as practice, sleep as offering, sleep as surrender. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're not using the practice to fall asleep. You're letting sleep become part of the practice. The moment the heart settles into these qualities, sleep comes not as escape, but as continuation. The training continues beneath the surface. The mind begins to rest in habits that heal instead of patterns that harm. In time, these qualities begin to shape how you meet your days. You become more patient, more steady, more available to others, more gentle with yourself. But none of that needs to be your focus now. Right now, you are not practicing to change. You are practicing to care for your heart as it is, to let it rest in something real. If thoughts arise during this process, you don't need to resist them. Just meet them with one of the Brahma Viharas. A harsh thought, offer metta. A painful memory, hold it with karuna. A bitter comparison, soften into mudita. A sense of overwhelm, anchor in upekkha. Each one becomes a tool, each one becomes a doorway. You are not trapped in thought, you are being invited to practice. Eventually the thinking slows, the heart grows quiet, the body releases what is left, not all at once, but enough. Enough to allow sleep to come in, to wrap you in stillness, to return you to yourself. This is the divine home, not far away, but right here in the middle of the night, with no temple, no ritual, just breath and care and presence. Let yourself remain here. There is nowhere else you need to be. You are not late, you are not wrong, you are not unfinished, you are whole. And the heart knows what to do. Let it rest. Let it soften. Let it return to kindness. And sleep will follow, not as an interruption to the path, but as part of the path itself. The heart has softened. The mind is quieter. You've met the night, not with resistance, but with care. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and balance have created a deep space for surrender. And now, something deeper is ready to be touched, not with thought, not with reflection, but with awareness. Not the kind that analyzes, but the kind that feels, the kind that listens to what's been there all along, waiting. Because even after calming the emotions and easing the mind, the body often still carries the day, in its shoulders, in its breath, in its bones. And this body, your body, is the doorway to deeper rest. Mindfulness of the body, known as kayanupassana, is a practice of direct connection. It brings awareness out of the mind and into the living truth of this moment as felt through form. It is not about controlling the body or fixing it. It's not about achieving stillness. It's about seeing what is already here, clearly, kindly, with total presence. In sleep preparation, this is not just helpful. It is sacred. Because while the mind can let go of thoughts and the heart can soften around emotions, the body needs to be felt to release what it carries. That release doesn't come from force. It comes from attention, noticing without pressure, allowing without expectation. Begin by feeling the body not as one solid mass, but as a field of sensation, each area alive in its own way, each part telling its own story. Your awareness can move through this field like water meeting earth. No need to dig, no need to rush. Just visit each area gently. Start at the top of the head. Feel the scalp, the forehead. Is there tension there? Is there warmth or coolness, tingling or stillness? Not to judge, just to notice. Then let the awareness drop into the eyes, the muscles around them. Let them soften. Then to the jaw, the mouth, the back of the neck. Each place a doorway, each part a message. Mindfulness of the body is not about scanning for pain. It's about intimacy. getting close to the real, simple experience of being alive. This body breathes. This body rests. This body carries you through the day. It deserves to be seen, not as a machine, not as a task, but as a living temple of presence. Let your attention rest in the shoulders. Feel the way they rise and fall with each breath, the heaviness they may carry, not just from posture, but from the invisible burdens of the day. Stress, roles, emotional tension. Let them be heavy now. Let them sink into the surface beneath you. Let the earth hold what you don't need to carry. Move to the arms, the hands, each finger, not to tighten or stretch, just to know they are there. The body relaxes more deeply when it feels seen. Your attention is not just neutral, it is healing. Every moment of mindful awareness brings the nervous system closer to rest, not because you're doing anything, but because you've stopped resisting what is. Feel the chest next, not just the breath, but the heart space, the lungs expanding and releasing. Let them move without instruction. Feel the rhythm they follow without your help. This rhythm is life itself, reliable, ancient, undisturbed by thought. Bring awareness to the abdomen, the belly. Notice if there is holding there. Many people carry tension in this area without realizing it. Not because of posture, but because of emotion. The gut is sensitive. It responds to fear, worry, urgency. Let the breath move freely here. No control, just presence. Let the muscles soften. Let the inner organs settle. Let the whole area be open, unguarded, loose. Let awareness continue down to the hips, the pelvis, the thighs, areas that often hold deep, unconscious tightness. These places carry you through the world. They hold weight, physical and emotional. Let that weight drop now. You don't have to support it, not tonight. Bring attention to the knees, the calves, the ankles, the feet, each point where your body meets the bed, the floor, the surface beneath you. These contact points are not passive, they are anchors. Let your awareness feel the support they offer. Grounding, steady, real. When mindfulness rests in the body, the mind naturally slows. Not because you're making it slow, but because the need to think diminishes. The body becomes more interesting than the thoughts, the sensations more vivid than the narratives, the breath more soothing than the mental noise. This is not detachment. This is return. Most people live above the neck, thinking, analyzing, preparing. But your life is not just in the head. It is in your skin, your breath, your heartbeat, your posture, your weight. When you return to the body, you return to wholeness, and wholeness leads to rest. Kayanupassana also includes awareness of posture, not as something to fix, but something to feel. Lying down, notice how your spine aligns. Notice how gravity pulls you into the ground. Notice the curves, the contact, the openness. Nothing needs to be changed, only known. You can also be aware of the body in motion, even the subtle motion of the breath, the rise and fall, the expansion and contraction. Breath becomes a wave. You ride it without effort. Each cycle a reminder that the body is doing its job, supporting you, serving you, trusting you to meet it with kindness. This kind of mindfulness is not active doing. It is passive intimacy. You are not trying to achieve a state. You are allowing the current state to be felt, fully, without pushing, without flinching. When the body is felt clearly, emotional tension often dissolves, because much of what the mind calls anxiety is simply unacknowledged physical discomfort. Tightness in the gut becomes fear. Shallow breath becomes panic. But when those sensations are met directly, without mental interpretation, they begin to change. The body calms when it is not abandoned. Sleep does not require total stillness. It requires safety, and safety begins with attention. When the body is known without judgment, it begins to feel safe again. Safe to let go, safe to rest, safe to drop into the deeper states of quiet that support true recovery. This practice is not something you master. It is something you return to. Every night, the body is different. Every night, the breath carries new information. You don't need to compare. You don't need to evaluate. You only need to feel. If the mind begins to wander, bring it back to sensation, not through control, through curiosity. What does the hand feel like now? What temperature is the breath? What texture is the space around the skin? Let sensation be your anchor. Let awareness be your home. Kayanupassana also includes reflection on the body's nature, its impermanence, its changing condition. This does not create fear. It creates perspective. This body is not fixed. It ages, it changes, it heals, it responds to care, and that change is part of its beauty. You are not trapped in this form. You are living through it, and when you care for it with mindfulness, it becomes not just a vehicle, but a refuge. Let the breath now become your central focus. Not in a sharp way, in a gentle, open way. Let it move through the body like a breeze through a forest, touching each part, clearing what is stagnant, softening what is tight, bringing nourishment to every cell. There is no perfect way to do this. There is only the invitation to stay close, to not drift too far into abstraction, to not float too far into thought. Stay here, in the breath, in the limbs, in the subtle movements. Stay here. When mindfulness is steady, the inner environment becomes silent. Not because you've forced it, but because everything is being heard. The body has spoken. You have listened. There is nothing left to say, only peace to feel. And now, as you rest in this silence, the body begins to shift into sleep, not out of exhaustion, but out of trust. The system knows it is safe. The mind knows it is not needed. The heart knows it is held. This is the sacred path into sleep, not by escape, not by shutting down, but by returning, fully, gently, here, now, in the breath, in the body, in awareness. Let that be enough, and let the night carry you from here. The breath has slowed, the body has been met with care. Awareness has returned to the living truth of this moment. Still, even with the nervous system calm and the physical form fully seen, sleep may remain just out of reach. The body is ready, but the mind, in its subtle movements, still resists. The thoughts are no longer loud, but something else lingers, a sense of self struggling against the silence. A quiet inner voice that says, "I can't sleep. I'm doing something wrong. Why can't I just let go?" This is not restlessness of the body. This is the clinging of identity. A sense of self wrapped tightly around a moment it can't control. This is where the practice of non-self becomes essential. Anatta, one of the core insights of the Buddha's teaching, is not a rejection of personality or denial of existence. It is a clear seeing into the absence of a permanent, separate self. It is the recognition that what we call me is not one solid thing, but a changing collection of thoughts, sensations, roles, memories, habits, and that none of it is fixed. None of it is truly who we are. When insomnia arises, the suffering is not only in the wakefulness, it is in the personal story that forms around it. I am failing. I should be asleep by now. There must be something wrong with me. These are not neutral observations. They are identity statements. They take a temporary condition and turn it into a personal failure. But through the lens of non-self, these thoughts can be questioned. Who is the I that isn't sleeping? Where is this fixed identity that believes it must be in control? What happens when you stop identifying with the one who struggles? The practice is not about suppressing thoughts. It's about seeing through them. When a thought arises, I can't sleep, notice it as an event, not a fact. It is a thought, not a truth. It has no owner. It appears, it lingers, it fades. You did not create it. You do not need to follow it. When there is no one clinging to the thought, it loses its power. Anatta invites you to observe experience without clinging to ownership. This body lies in bed. These sensations arise. These thoughts come and go, but none of them define you. There is no fixed self inside the body failing to rest. There is just experience flowing. Thought, breath, sound, silence, all of it appearing and disappearing without a center. This shift in perception does not require force. It requires honesty. Start with what is here now. There is a thought saying this should feel different. See it. Let it float. Then look closer. What makes that thought feel like yours? Is there a shape, a center, a self holding it together? Or is it just a familiar echo repeating itself out of habit? Insomnia becomes heavier when there is identification. The tension builds not from being awake, but from believing that wakefulness is a problem you must solve. But when the sense of ownership fades, the pressure begins to loosen. Wakefulness becomes just another state, like hunger or cold or rest. It does not mean anything about you. It does not need a narrative. Even the phrase, "I can't sleep," creates contraction. It defines you in relation to what is not happening. But what if there is no I at the center of that story? Then the whole structure collapses. There is just wakefulness without resistance. And in that space, rest can begin. This doesn't mean sleep will arrive instantly, but it means the fight begins to dissolve. The war with the night ends, the urgency fades, and from that, peace can grow. Non-self also reveals something deeper about how suffering operates. When we suffer, we often believe there is a self who is being punished, a self who deserves better or worse. But suffering doesn't need a self to exist. It just needs attachment to impermanent things. Sleep is one of those things, desired, chased, clung to. And when it does not come, we blame the imagined self. But through the lens of anatta, that blame loses meaning. The person who couldn't sleep last night is not the same as the one lying here now. Experience has changed. The mind has moved. The sensations have shifted. You are not a constant. So why hold the same narrative across these changing states? Let the thought, "I'm a bad sleeper," appear. Then look at it with clear awareness. Is this a fact, or is it a habit of identity? Has it always been true? Does it serve peace? When you look deeply, These identity thoughts begin to unravel. What's left is just presence, just breath, just body, no label, no judgment, no one failing. Anatta also helps with perfectionism, the idea that there is a right way to fall asleep, that your practice must lead to results, that progress must be linear. All of these are tied to self-view, a subtle desire to be the one who does it right, the meditator who succeeds, the peaceful one. But those identities are just as sticky as any other, and they bring the same suffering. Let them go too. Rest happens when there is space, when the mind no longer needs to prove something, when the body is not pressured to perform, when awareness is free to observe without commentary. This is what anatta offers, not a void, but a freedom. The freedom to experience life without carrying the burden of being someone inside it. You are not the thoughts about sleep. You are not the one judging the breath. You are not the voice predicting tomorrow's exhaustion. These are processes. They happen on their own, like clouds passing in the sky. You don't need to own them. You don't need to stop them. Just see them as they are, temporary, impersonal, fading. This perspective is not disconnection. It is deeper connection. Not with the story of self, but with what's actually happening. When the narrative dissolves, the senses come alive. The feel of the blanket, the sound of the night air, the rhythm of the breath. These simple things become vivid. They require no identity, just attention. As attention settles, the need for identity fades. The mind stops looking for someone to be. There is just seeing, just knowing, just being. Not as a self, but as awareness itself. And this awareness doesn't resist anything. It doesn't demand sleep. It doesn't argue with wakefulness. It just watches. And in that watching, peace arises. This is the practice, not a method, not a goal, a direct seeing over and over. When the mind says, "I am awake," you say, "There is wakefulness." When the mind says, "I'm failing," you say, "There is judgment." No pushback, no fight, just seeing. Over time, the mind begins to believe the new pattern, that there is no you to protect, no you to defend, no you to fix, just moments unfolding, just experience flowing, no center, no stuckness, no self-clinging. Insomnia may still arise, but it won't define you. It won't harden into suffering. It will be a visitor, temporary, harmless, and maybe, without the story, it will pass more quickly, or maybe not. Either way, the peace is the same, because peace was never about sleep. It was about release. Now, as you lie here, feel the breath again. Let go of the one who is tracking it. Let go of the one who is trying. Just feel, just be. Let the body rest without being anyone. Let the thoughts rise without needing to belong to them. Let sleep come or not. It no longer defines anything. You are already whole, already free. And the night holds you without needing a name. The grip of identity has loosened. You've begun to witness experience as it is, without placing yourself at the center of every thought. The sense of "I am failing" has softened into the awareness that thoughts, sensations, and moods come and go on their own, without needing to define who you are. But even with this clarity, there is another layer that often hides beneath wakefulness, a layer that doesn't come from what's happening, but from how you respond to it. It's not the experience itself that causes the deepest suffering. but the way you carry it forward long after the moment has passed. That's where the second arrow comes in. In Buddhist psychology, there is a teaching that says, when something painful happens, that is the first arrow. It is life doing what life does. A difficulty, a discomfort, a moment of sadness, frustration, or disappointment. These are part of being human. But then the mind often reacts with judgment, resistance, and self-blame. It adds a second arrow, deeper, sharper, and often longer lasting than the first. This is the suffering that we create ourselves. Before bed, this second arrow often hides in the thoughts we replay. Maybe something went wrong during the day. Someone said something you didn't like. You made a mistake. You forgot something important. These are the first arrows, painful but temporary. But the second arrow comes when the mind says, "Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? I always mess things up." These thoughts don't just notice pain. They stab into it. They prolong it. They feed it. At night, these second arrows often disguise themselves as reflection, but they are not clarity. They are self-punishment. You may feel like you're trying to understand your day, but what you're really doing is repeating the same criticism again and again, hoping it will change something. But the past won't change. What can change is how much of it you carry into your rest. The first step is to recognize the difference. Begin to notice when your thoughts are simply naming what happened, and when they are layering on stories about what it means. "I forgot to send the message" is the first arrow. "I'm irresponsible and people must be disappointed in me" is the second. One is a fact. The other is suffering added by the mind. You can learn to stop before the second arrow. Or if you've already shot it, you can learn to pull it out gently. You don't need to keep it embedded in your thinking. The way to do that is not to argue with the mind, but to meet it with understanding. You can say, "Yes, this happened. Yes, it was unpleasant, but I don't need to make it worse." That is already a doorway to peace. This practice isn't about ignoring mistakes. It's about responding without harm. You can acknowledge what went wrong without attacking yourself. You can learn without tearing yourself down. In fact, you learn more when you're not afraid of your own mind. When the inner environment is safe, insight becomes possible. When the mind stops punishing itself, sleep becomes easier. The second arrow can also take the form of anxiety. You feel tired but can't rest because you're thinking about what might happen tomorrow. The first arrow is the uncertainty. The second is the spiral of imagined disasters, self-blame, or rehearsed arguments that haven't even happened. You might say, "What if I mess up tomorrow's presentation?" That's already the second arrow. The future hasn't come, but the pain is already here, built from thought alone. Let go of the belief that you can prepare for peace by suffering in advance. Let go of the idea that punishing yourself now will protect you later. The second arrow pretends to be useful. It tells you that worry equals responsibility, that guilt equals moral growth. But what it really does is rob you of rest and blur your ability to respond clearly when the moment actually arrives. Tonight, notice what you're carrying. Bring awareness to what feels heavy, not just in the body, but in the tone of your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this pain from the original experience, or is it something I'm continuing to hold? If it's the second arrow, let it fall. You don't have to keep stabbing yourself to prove you care. Compassion sees the pain clearly and then softens around it. It doesn't tighten. It doesn't condemn. You can place your hand on your chest and offer this moment a silent phrase. This is painful, and I don't need to make it worse. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is the moment when the spiral ends. When the cycle of reaction no longer feeds itself. When the mind, having seen its own habit, chooses something else. This is the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is what happens. Suffering is what we do with it. Pain is the broken glass. Suffering is walking through it again and again, long after we've seen it on the floor. The second arrow keeps us stuck in that loop. Awareness lets us step around it. Sometimes the second arrow is subtle. It might sound reasonable, like, I should have known better, or that wasn't good enough. These thoughts seem helpful, but they carry blame. They reinforce the belief that you are always falling short, that you must be fixed, that something is wrong with who you are. But growth doesn't require shame. Rest doesn't require perfection, and peace doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from stopping the self-attack. At night especially, the nervous system is sensitive. It feels more, it remembers more, and it's more vulnerable to these arrows. That's why awareness matters even more during this time. You can protect your rest by being intentional with your attention. Not by forcing positive thoughts, but by not feeding painful ones that don't help. If the mind starts to spiral, ask yourself, what is true right now? Not what was true earlier, not what might be true later. But in this moment, what is true? You are here. You are breathing. The bed holds you. The air is quiet. The world has paused. That's what's real. Let your mind rest in that. Let it drop the stories. If you need to name something that still hurts, do it gently. Say, this was hard. I'm still learning. That's enough. You don't need to go further. You don't need to relive every detail. The wound doesn't heal by being reopened. It heals by being seen once, clearly, and then held with kindness. Before sleep, this is your practice. Recognize the first arrow. Avoid the second. When you feel tension, ask, is this necessary? Is this kind? Is this useful? If not, it doesn't need your attention. Let it float. Let it dissolve. Let it pass, like all things do. You can even offer yourself a ritual phrase to close the day, something simple, something gentle, like, whatever happened, I did my best. Whatever I missed, I'll face tomorrow. I don't need to fix it tonight. Let those words be a gate, a soft end, a signal to the mind that it can rest now. Nothing else is required. You are not your mistakes. You are not your unfinished tasks. You are not your worst moments. You are also not the voice that tells you you're failing. That voice is old. It's conditioned. It doesn't know the truth. And tonight, you don't have to believe it. Put the arrows down. Let your body release the tension. Let your breath carry no judgment. Let your heart stay open. You are safe here. You are held. And rest is not something you must earn. It is your birthright. When you stop stabbing yourself, peace has space to return. Let that space grow now. Let the night unfold without resistance. You've already done enough, and now you are free to sleep. No more arrows, no more harm. Just breath, just stillness, just the softness that waits on the other side of forgiveness. You've seen how pain becomes heavier when the mind continues to speak in the voice of blame. You've recognized how the second arrow, the added suffering, can be dropped. The stories don't need to be repeated. The judgments don't need to be believed. What's left is a quiet space. But even this quiet must be cared for, or else the momentum of speech, thinking, and internal commentary will continue long after you've put everything else down. You've released the second arrow. Now you are invited to protect what remains. This is where the practice of noble silence begins. It is more than refraining from talking. It is the deliberate, conscious choice to stop feeding noise in every form, not as avoidance, but as devotion. A devotion to clarity, to stillness, to a mind that no longer echoes with unfinished dialogue or emotional rehearsals. The silence of this kind is not emptiness, it is sacred space, a vow not only to quiet the tongue, but to quiet the habit of filling every pause with more. After sunset, the mind tends to stir. It replays, rewrites, reviews. There is a subtle belief that if you just talk it through, out loud or in your head, you'll find peace. But talking does not often resolve, it reactivates. Even internal speech keeps the nervous system alert, looping thoughts like a wheel that can't stop spinning. Noble silence offers an alternative, a pause from the constant commentary, a resting place for the voice that always thinks it must speak. This kind of silence doesn't mean shutting out others harshly. It means gently choosing stillness over stimulation. You can begin by simplifying your environment. As night falls, reduce sound. Lower lights. Turn away from screens. Let the body begin to understand that nothing more is needed. Communication can wait. The world can wait. Your presence is enough. Internally, noble silence means no more mental rehearsing, no more replays, no more arguments in your head. If a thought arises, notice it and let it go. There's no need to respond to it. You don't have to form full sentences in your mind. You don't need to solve problems after dark. Make a quiet agreement with yourself that anything not related to peace can wait until morning. This vow of silence also includes emotional stillness. It means not feeding emotional narratives. It doesn't mean suppressing what you feel, but it means refusing to narrate it endlessly. Feelings arise and fade like waves. They don't need explanations. They don't need to be turned into stories. Noble silence honors feeling by holding it with presence instead of commentary. This practice is gentle. It does not punish thoughts. It simply does not speak them. The thoughts may still arise, but you learn to not follow them with your attention. They are like birds flying across the sky. They come, they pass. You don't need to describe them. You don't need to name each one. You just let them be. Over time, noble silence becomes not just a discipline, but a relief. You start to notice how exhausting it is to always be narrating your life, even to yourself. You see how much energy is saved when you no longer need to explain, justify, or replay everything. The silence becomes a comfort, a space where you are allowed to just be without performance. This silence creates room for deeper rest. The body responds, the breath deepens, the heartbeat slows, because the voice that demanded control is no longer speaking. Without inner commentary, the system begins to understand that it is safe to rest, that it can let go fully. In the monastic tradition, noble silence is observed not just at night, but in daily life. Meals are eaten in quiet. Chores are done without conversation. Meditation is practiced without verbal guidance. This is not isolation. It is communion with awareness itself. It is a way of living that points attention back to what's real, not what's imagined. You can carry this into your own life without becoming a monk. Choose certain hours each evening where you do not speak unless truly necessary. Let your phone rest. Let your responses wait. If you live with others, you can let them know this is a time of stillness for you, a time to reconnect with peace. You don't have to disappear. Just speak less. And when you do, speak from calm, not habit. Internally, you can notice the moments where you would usually talk to yourself, and instead, breathe. Instead of explaining your feelings to yourself again, sit with them in quiet companionship. Instead of planning tomorrow's conversation, allow it to remain unwritten. Let the future arrive on its own. It does not need your rehearsal tonight. The more you practice this, the more clearly you begin to hear what lies beneath the noise. You begin to notice the simple beauty of silence itself. You see that silence is not a void. It is a space of deep presence. It allows everything to be held without being manipulated. It gives rise to wisdom that does not come from thinking, but from listening. Listening becomes clearer when it's not interrupted by internal speech. You hear the subtle sounds around you, the breath, the small creaks in the floor, the distant hum of night. These sounds are not distractions. They are reminders that life continues without needing to be narrated. As silence deepens, insight may arise. But you don't have to name it. You don't need to capture it in language. Let the insight live in the body, in the breath. Not all wisdom needs to be spoken. Some truths are meant to be felt, not explained. This also shifts your relationship to sleep. Instead of seeing sleep as the end of the day, it becomes the continuation of silence. A silence so deep that even thought fades, that even form dissolves. Noble silence prepares you for this. It is a training for release, a gentle descent into quiet that holds nothing and resists nothing. If you wake up in the night, you can return to this vow. You don't need to start the narrative again. You don't need to recount the time or solve anything. You can re-enter silence. The vow can be renewed each moment. It is not rigid. It is a doorway. This vow is not a burden. It is a kindness to yourself, to your mind, to your nervous system. You've done enough thinking, enough explaining, enough trying to fix. Now you are allowed to rest in stillness. Let this be your commitment for the night, that you will not add more words to the day, not with your voice, not in your mind, that you will allow quiet to hold you, that you will trust silence to do its work. The world will still be here in the morning. The problems will wait. The conversations can happen then. But tonight, silence is your sanctuary. Let it deepen. Let it surround you. Let it become the language of your sleep. The silence has settled in, not just around you, but within. Words are no longer needed. The urge to explain, fix, and prove has softened. You've seen how noise, spoken and unspoken, keeps the heart restless. And now that you've stepped into stillness, you can begin to see what that stillness reveals. What shows up when everything else gets quiet is not always easy, but it's real. And sometimes what's most real is what we spend our days avoiding. The things we pretend not to see. The truths we look away from because they feel too large, too final, too confronting. Yet these are often the truths that open the deepest peace. The truths that make every breath more precious, every moment more vivid. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a teaching about the heavenly messengers. They aren't supernatural beings. They are everyday realities that carry the wisdom most people try to avoid. They are sickness, aging, and death. The Buddha himself spoke of these not as tragedies, but as reminders, messengers that wake us from the sleep of denial. They show us what is fragile, not to scare us, but to help us see what is sacred. At night, when distractions fade and the mind turns inward, these messengers can be invited in, not as threats, but as teachers. The first is sickness. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you now. It simply means that the body is not invincible. It changes, it weakens, it heals, it breaks. It carries you through each day, and yet it's never under full control. Even when you feel strong, you are vulnerable. That's not a failure. It's the nature of this form. And recognizing that truth can bring a deep and humble kind of gratitude. Often, during the day, we take our functioning for granted, the ability to move, to breathe without effort, to digest food, to walk, to speak. These are not guaranteed. When we reflect on sickness, we don't focus on fear, we focus on appreciation. This body may ache, it may be tired, it may carry pain, but tonight it still breathes. It still allows rest. And for now, that is everything. You can bring gentle awareness to any part of the body that feels discomfort, not to resist it, not to analyze it, but to witness it with respect, to say quietly, this too is part of being alive. This too is welcome. Sickness does not mean failure. It means the body is doing what bodies do, responding, changing, adapting. When you let go of the idea that health is a right, it becomes a gift, one that softens pride and opens the heart. The second messenger is aging, a process that begins at birth and never stops. It's not something that happens later. It is happening now. Every cell changes, every day passes. The body you have now is not the body you had 10 years ago. The face, the skin, the breath, all of it shifts. Aging is not a punishment. It's not something going wrong. It's the unfolding of nature. At night, this can be felt more clearly. You may notice stiffness in your body. You may remember a time when sleep came more easily. You may feel your limits more honestly than during the busyness of day. This is not weakness. This is truth. And truth, when met without resistance, becomes peace. Aging reminds us that we cannot go backward, that clinging to past versions of ourselves only creates pain. But in that release, we find freedom. You are not who you were. You are not who you will be. You are here, now, in this version of your body, this moment of your life. And this moment deserves your full attention, not because it will last, but because it won't. There is beauty in change. Lines on the face tell stories. Softness in the body tells of experience. Fatigue tells of a day lived. Nothing has been lost. Everything is being transformed. To reflect on aging is not to mourn youth. It is to honor the present, to say yes to what is true, even if it isn't always easy. The third messenger is death, the most avoided truth and the most important. Not because it ends everything, but because it reveals what matters. Death is not a punishment waiting at the end. It is part of every moment. A breath ends, a thought fades, a phase of life closes. And eventually, so will this body. Not because something is wrong, but because this is the way of all things. This reflection is not morbid. It is liberating. Because when you remember that life is limited, the small annoyances lose power. The fear of being judged softens. The urgency to control fades. What matters becomes clear. You realize that sleep, right now, in this quiet room, is not something to achieve. It is something to receive. You don't know how many nights remain, but you have this one. You don't know how many breaths are left, but you have this one. When you let death sit beside you, not as a threat, but as a teacher, you begin to feel time differently, more slowly, more sweetly, less frantically. This reflection also brings forgiveness. When you realize life is short, grudges lose meaning. Perfection becomes irrelevant. You see how much time has been spent worrying about things that won't matter at the end. And suddenly you feel permission to let go, to drop the heavy stories, to sleep without needing everything to be solved. These three messengers are not here to frighten. They are here to open your eyes, to bring you back to what is already here. A breath, a body, a moment. And when you receive them fully, without denial, a new kind of rest becomes possible. One that comes not from escape, but from truth. You can close your eyes now and thank your body for this day. Thank it for its strength, even if it's tired. Thank it for showing up, even if it struggled. You can thank your aging process for its lessons, for softening your ego, for deepening your understanding, for showing you what really matters. And you can thank the presence of death, not as an end, but as a reminder that this night is sacred, that your rest is not just useful, it is beautiful. Let the gratitude grow quietly. Let it spread without force. Let it touch every part of you, not in words, but in presence. Let the messengers stand beside you in peace. They are not here to take anything. They are here to give perspective. And perspective, in its purest form, is the beginning of wisdom. You are alive now. You are breathing now. You have another chance to meet yourself with honesty, with care, with compassion. And when you rest in that awareness, the night no longer holds fear. It holds space for stillness, for reflection, for peace, and eventually for sleep. Let it come without resistance. Let it come without pretending. Let it come as a soft thank you to life itself. The messengers have done their work. Now you are free to rest in what they've shown. The messengers have spoken. Their quiet reminders of sickness, aging, and death have helped to clear the distractions of the day. They've pointed you toward what matters most: presence, appreciation, gentleness, and truth. But even now, as the mind grows quieter and the body more still, there may be one last thing standing between you and rest. The heart may still be carrying weight, an argument, a memory, a wound. Sometimes it isn't the noise of thought or the ache of the body that keeps you from sleep. It's something deeper, a lingering resentment, an unresolved pain, a refusal, conscious or not, to let go of what someone said or did, or what you did and still haven't forgiven in yourself. The body lies still, but the heart remains clenched. In the Kakachupama Sutta, the Buddha offers a teaching known as the simile of the saw. It is one of the most powerful metaphors in the entire Pali Canon. In it, he tells his disciples that even if they were to be attacked, dismembered limb by bandits using a two-handed saw, they must not let anger arise. He does not say this because the act would be acceptable or fair. He says it because anger, clinging, and revenge cause more harm to the heart than any blade. The wound inflicted by another may hurt the body, but the hatred we hold afterward wounds the mind. When you reflect on this simile before bed, it may feel extreme, but that's the point. The Buddha uses strong imagery to help the mind understand what it normally refuses to see: that forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. It's not about justifying harm. It's about refusing to carry it any further. To forgive is to put down the weapon you picked up in response, to stop attacking yourself with memory, to stop recutting the same wound with thought. Forgiveness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. It's the decision to stop wishing the past was different. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because reliving it each night serves no one. And in the quiet of evening, when everything slows down, the mind often reopens those old injuries. You hear again what was said. You feel again what was denied to you. And part of you begins to rehearse your defense, to argue in silence, to build a case. This is the moment the simile of the saw becomes most powerful. It asks you, even here, will you choose peace over righteousness? Will you let the blade fall from your own hand, even if theirs never did? Because no one else is keeping you awake now. The person who hurt you is not in the room. Only the thoughts are here, only the memories, only the old roles you're still playing out, and you have the power to end the scene. This doesn't mean excusing cruelty. It doesn't mean pretending things were okay. It means refusing to let your heart be ruled by pain any longer. Forgiveness is not approval, it is freedom. When you carry anger into bed, it turns your rest into a battleground. But when you forgive, even silently, your sleep becomes a temple. Start with those you resent. Quietly name them in your heart. Not out loud, not with drama. Just feel their presence in the memory. And then say, I release you. I release myself. I refuse to carry this into my rest. You don't need to know how to forgive. You only need to be willing. That willingness opens the door. You may find it harder to forgive yourself than others. This is common. We often hold ourselves to impossible standards. Every mistake becomes a scar we keep scratching. Every word we regret becomes a line in a story about being unworthy. But tonight, you can choose something different. You can say, I did the best I could with what I knew. I'm still learning. I release myself. I forgive this part of me. The simile teaches us that clinging to anger, even when justified, only deepens our suffering. Even if the person never apologizes, even if the harm remains unacknowledged. Your peace does not need their participation. Your sleep does not need their agreement. You do not need to wait for justice to rest. The mind might protest. It might say, but if I forgive, won't they get away with it? Let the mind speak. Then remember, forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. It just ends your own suffering. Justice can still happen. Boundaries can still be held. But hate is not required. You can protect yourself without punishing your heart. At bedtime, every grudge becomes louder. Every old pain resurfaces because the distractions are gone. That's why this practice matters most here. Not because it's easy, but because it's healing. Forgiveness at night isn't a gift to anyone else. It's the kindness you offer yourself so that you don't have to dream in pain. If you can't forgive yet, then begin by forgiving the difficulty. Say, I don't know how to let this go yet, and that's okay. I will sit with this without turning it into poison. I will stay soft, even if I'm not ready. That too is the beginning of freedom. You can also use the body as a guide. If your chest feels tight, let the breath enter it gently. If your jaw is clenched, allow it to relax. These places hold your resistance. Meet them with attention, with patience, with silence. Forgiveness does not happen only in the mind. It unfolds in the body. It expresses itself through ease. The more you practice this, the more you realize how much energy goes into keeping anger alive. You begin to see how tiring it is to keep a record of every wrong, to rehearse every insult, to define yourself by old wounds. And one night, when the heart is ready, you may feel something drop away, a tension you didn't realize was there, a story you no longer need, a name that no longer brings pain. That is the moment the simile fulfills its purpose. You see clearly that peace was never about what happened. It was always about how long you kept holding it. You put down the saw, you step out of the old scene, and finally, your heart is free to rest. Let this be your closing act tonight. Not a conversation, not an explanation, just a silent offering. I forgive what I can. I hold gently what I cannot. I choose peace over memory. I choose rest over rumination. And I offer this sleep to something greater than pain. There is nothing more to do now. No fight to replay. No punishment to carry. Let the night be soft. Let the breath be slow. Let the heart be light. And let sleep come, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer trying to make it so. You have chosen forgiveness, and that is enough. The heart has softened with forgiveness. You've put down the old stories, the sharp edges, the weight of what was never yours to keep. You've chosen peace, not because the past is resolved, but because you've stopped letting it own your rest. And now, in this space of letting go, you arrive at a threshold, one you cross every night without noticing. A moment so familiar you forget how mysterious it truly is. The moment when you fall asleep. The crossing from waking to not waking. The end of everything you were today. The beginning of something you cannot yet name. Sleep is not just rest. It is release. It is surrender. It is its own kind of ending. And with every ending, something new waits quietly on the other side. In Buddhist teaching, the process of rebirth is not only about what happens after death, it's also about what happens right here, in this very life, from moment to moment. You are being reborn all the time, in every thought, in every shift of mood, in every intention you set. And sleep is one of the most profound expressions of this cycle. Every time you close your eyes, something in you ends. Identity dissolves. The thinking mind fades. Control slips away. It is a rehearsal for the deepest release you will ever experience. Many people fear death because it seems unknown, but they overlook that they practice it every night. They fear letting go, yet they let go daily. They believe death is a one-time event, but it is reflected in every transition, every silence, every surrender. When you begin to look at sleep this way, it becomes more than a biological need. It becomes a teacher. Sleep mirrors death, not because it's dangerous, but because it reveals what you're really holding on to. It asks you to stop, to release your name, your schedule, your relationships, your identity, to hand over the steering wheel. This is why insomnia often comes when the mind is grasping tightly, because sleep cannot be forced. It only arrives when you let everything else go. But if sleep is death in miniature, then waking is rebirth. Each morning, you return to form. You remember who you are. You re-enter your body, your personality, your memories. And with that return, you also have the opportunity to begin again. Not as the person you were yesterday, but as someone new. Someone shaped by the insights of silence, by the deep reset that happens when the mind is no longer clinging. To embrace this view is to change your entire relationship with the night. You stop dreading sleep. You stop resisting it. You stop seeing it as something to conquer. Instead, you recognize it as sacred, as a pause in the cycle of becoming, as a soft reset that mirrors the great letting go that comes for everyone eventually. This reflection doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be clear. As you lie down, you can say to yourself, "Now I release today." Not because it was bad, not because it's over, but because it no longer needs to be carried. The same way breath enters and exits, the day has come and gone. Clinging to it only interrupts the deeper rhythm your body is already following. There's a quiet power in understanding that every sleep is a kind of letting go of self. And if you can do this willingly, you become less afraid of change, less controlled by the idea of continuity, less defined by the idea that you are only one thing. Sleep teaches you that identity can be paused, that awareness can shift, that control is not needed for safety. And there's peace in knowing that even in sleep, something continues. The body breathes, the heart beats, the mind dreams. Consciousness does not disappear. It moves through another landscape, one without effort, one without narrative, one that you return from with a kind of clarity that can't be found while awake. This is why the Buddha taught so often about impermanence and renewal, not just in metaphysical terms, but in everyday life. Because the more you see these cycles, the more you live with lightness, the more you realize that nothing is truly fixed, not your fears, not your habits, not your mistakes. Every ending is an opening. Every night is an invitation to reset not just your body, but your view. There is also a gentle humility that comes with this understanding. You realize that no matter how hard you try, you cannot force yourself to stay awake forever. Sleep will come. The same way death comes. Not because you've failed, but because that's how life works. All things cycle, all forms change. Resistance only makes the process heavier. And so each night becomes an opportunity to practice surrender with grace, not as a loss, but as a return, not as a failure, but as a natural rhythm. When you let go in this way, sleep arrives not as an interruption, but as a homecoming. You fall not into nothingness, but into spaciousness, into a place where you are no longer required to be anyone, to do anything, to prove anything. You can prepare for this by slowly letting go of today's attachments, the things you felt proud of, the things that hurt, the things unfinished. Let them dissolve like sand slipping through open hands. If they return tomorrow, you'll meet them anew. But tonight, they do not belong in your hands. Not because they aren't real, but because you cannot carry them into the formless space where sleep lives. If fears arise around this letting go, let them be held. Fear is natural when control fades. But you are not falling into danger. You are falling into trust. Trust in the same life that moves the breath without your effort. Trust in the silence that has never harmed you. Trust in the vastness that holds you even when your thoughts do not. The more you embrace this view, the more peaceful your nights become. Not because nothing difficult happens, but because you've stopped resisting the flow. You've stopped needing to be awake in order to be okay. You've stopped defining peace as something that only exists when the mind is active. Rest becomes a kind of wisdom. This is the gift of seeing sleep as a small death. You remember that nothing is forever. that not every part of the day must be resolved, that not every part of you needs to remain. And in this letting go, you find something deeper than identity, something softer than thought, something more intimate than even your name. This soft awareness doesn't disappear when you sleep. It remains, and when you wake, it comes back with you, carried in your breath, in your posture, in the way you treat the first moment of morning. Rebirth isn't always grand. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's simply choosing to wake up without dragging yesterday behind you. As you prepare now to rest, let this become your final reflection. This moment is both an ending and a beginning. You are dissolving the version of yourself that lived through today, and that's okay. You are not vanishing. You are cycling. You are returning. You are surrendering to the part of life that asks for no effort. Let the breath deepen. Let the body sink. Let the thoughts loosen. You do not need to understand where you are going. You only need to allow the going. Trust the process. Trust the rhythm. Trust the letting go. And when sleep arrives, let it be the softest death you've ever known. One without fear. One without resistance. One filled with the quiet freedom of beginning again. You've now touched the deeper rhythm of surrender. The quiet recognition that each night something ends and something begins. You've begun to see sleep not as absence, but as return. Not as a gap, but as a moment of renewal. And within that gentle letting go, something else often rises, subtle, persistent, and hard to silence. The drive to prove, the need to succeed, the craving to be someone. Even in the softness of night, this pattern can remain. It shows up in the form of unfinished goals, unspoken doubts, comparison, pressure. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It says, "You haven't done enough. You must do more. You can't rest yet." This is the wind that unsettles the heart, and it is not new. The Buddha spoke about it directly. He called them the 8 worldly winds: gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. These 8 conditions move through every life. No one escapes them. No amount of control, intelligence, or effort can hold them still. They blow constantly, sometimes in your favor, sometimes against you, but always in motion. When you lie down at night, these winds often return in thought. Did I do enough? Did I fail or succeed? Was I seen, valued, acknowledged? Will they still respect me? Do I deserve to rest? This inner commentary is not random. It is shaped by the winds, and the more you attach to these shifting outcomes, the more disturbed your sleep becomes. Begin by noticing which of these winds has stirred your mind today. Perhaps you experienced gain. Something went well, something was accomplished. The mind clings to that, hoping it will last. Or perhaps there was loss, a missed opportunity, a setback, a disappointment. The mind spins, trying to rewrite it. Both bring tension, one in the form of grasping, the other in the form of resistance. Praise can feel intoxicating, but it also creates pressure. If others liked what you did, will they still like you tomorrow? Will you meet their expectations again? The craving for praise quickly turns into fear of blame, and even when blame is not present, the fear of it is enough to keep the body alert long after it needs rest. Pleasure is fleeting, but the mind tries to hold on to it. The good conversation, the moment of laughter, the small success. It wants to relive it. It wants to protect it. This, too, stirs the mind. And when pain arises, emotional or physical, the reaction is strong. Why did this happen? How can I make it stop? The resistance becomes the second layer of suffering. Fame doesn't have to mean celebrity. It can be as simple as the desire to be known, recognized, understood, to be relevant, to be admired. And its opposite, disrepute, is the fear of being misunderstood, dismissed, ignored. At night, both these winds can circle the mind. You replay what you said. You imagine how others perceived you. You construct stories that either validate or condemn your worth. But the Buddha's teaching is clear. These winds come and go. They are not personal. They are conditions of the world. If you attach to them, you suffer. If you cling to gain, loss will disturb you. If you chase praise, blame will crush you. If you seek only pleasure, pain will become unbearable. If you need to be known, you will fear being forgotten. Letting go of these attachments is not apathy. It is freedom. It is knowing that your value does not rise and fall with external outcomes, that you are not defined by what you gain or lose, by how others see you, by the quality of each moment. You are defined by your clarity, by your willingness to meet each wind without being thrown off course. At bedtime, this becomes especially important, because the body can only rest when the mind no longer feels the need to prove, when it no longer argues with how the day unfolded, when it stops comparing your path with someone else's, when it releases the invisible scoreboard. You can begin this release by recalling the 8 winds quietly and naming them. Ask yourself, what did I gain today? What did I lose? What praise did I receive or crave? What blame did I fear or endure? What pleasures did I cling to? What pain did I resist? Where did I feel seen? Where did I feel invisible? Just observe. Let the answers arise without judgment. This is not confession. This is clarity. Then say inwardly, these are not who I am. These are conditions. They come, they go. They do not own me. Let the truth of this sink into the body. Let the tension begin to unravel. Let the pressure to achieve dissolve in the silence of presence. This reflection is not meant to empty you. It's meant to ground you, to bring you back to what is steady. Because under the winds, there is always stillness, like the deep ocean beneath the surface waves. That stillness is not shaken by what happens. It does not rise with gain or fall with loss. It is not threatened by blame. It does not crave praise. It just is. Let your breath connect you to that. Let each inhale remind you that you are not lacking. Let each exhale remind you that you are not holding anything. This moment is whole, even if nothing was finished today, even if no one noticed your effort, even if the results were different than you hoped. You are still allowed to rest. Letting go of achievement is not failure. It is remembering that you are not a product, that your worth is not calculated by metrics, that sleep is not a reward. It is a rhythm. It is nature, and it is sacred. This doesn't mean you lose your drive. It means you see it clearly. You act when action is needed. You work when work is wise, but you do not become the work. You do not lose yourself in the winds. You keep one foot on the ground, and you let the winds pass. Tonight, you do not need to win. You do not need to fix anything. You do not need to rise above anyone. You do not need to impress. You do not need to hold on to what went well. You do not need to repair what went wrong. You only need to be here. The winds may still blow, but you do not have to chase or run. You can rest where you are, safe, unmoved, steady in your presence. And from this place, sleep comes, not because everything is complete, but because you are no longer spinning. The world will spin on its own. Let it. You have stepped out of the cycle, if only for tonight. You have remembered that you are not what happens to you. You are not your gains. You are not your losses. You are not your praise or your pain. You are the one who sees clearly, and that is more than enough. Let yourself rest in that truth now. You've just released the weight of worldly winds. You've seen how the mind, even in the silence of night, can be pushed and pulled by gain and loss, praise and blame, craving and resistance. You've felt what it's like to step out of those currents and rest in something deeper, more stable, untouched by comparison. And in that stillness, something else begins to stir. A subtle noticing, a curiosity about why the mind keeps returning to certain patterns, why some thoughts persist long after the day has ended, why rest, even when the body is ready, can still feel far away. These patterns don't just rise from habit, they rise from something more foundational. The roots beneath the surface, the deep binding forces that shape how you perceive yourself and the world. In Buddhist teachings, these are known as the fetters. The 10 fetters are not external chains. They are inner knots, beliefs, attachments, assumptions, and cravings that keep the mind circling in confusion and restlessness. They are subtle, often invisible, but their effects are deeply felt, especially at night when there is nowhere left to run. When everything is quiet, they reveal themselves in the tightness in your chest, in the thoughts that repeat, in the inability to fully let go. The Buddha taught that these fetters are what bind beings to suffering. Not just dramatic suffering, but the small, ongoing unease that prevents complete peace. These fetters are not broken all at once. They are loosened through insight, through awareness, through willingness to see clearly. And bedtime, often dismissed as routine, is one of the most powerful gateways to this insight. Because at night, the pretending stops. You are not distracted, you are not performing, you are simply here, face to face with the truth of your own mind. The first fetter is belief in a fixed self. The idea that there is a solid, unchanging identity at the center of your experience. This belief whispers that you are your roles, your thoughts, your story. And when sleep doesn't come, this belief gets louder. Why can't I relax? What's wrong with me? I should be better at this. These thoughts seem personal, but they are habits of a self-image that's never been questioned. When you release this belief, even slightly, rest becomes easier, because there is no one left to perform, no self to defend, just awareness, gently dissolving into stillness. The second fetter is doubt, not healthy questioning, but paralyzing uncertainty, a mind that cannot settle because it's always unsure. Is this working? Will I sleep? Am I doing this right? This doubt keeps the mind circling, but doubt fades when you learn to trust direct experience. The breath is here, the body is resting, the practice is unfolding. You don't need to understand everything, you only need to stay with what's real. The third fetter is attachment to rules and rituals. This isn't about discipline, it's about rigidity, the belief that peace only comes if conditions are perfect. A specific pillow, the right routine, total silence. These attachments create pressure. The mind becomes tight, not relaxed. When you loosen this fetter, you become more flexible. You rest, not because everything is controlled, but because you've stopped needing control. The fourth fetter is sensual craving. This is not just about pleasure. It's the mind's grasping at stimulation, wanting more comfort, more excitement, more input. Even in bed, the craving doesn't stop. Maybe one more video, one more scroll, one more snack. But the craving never ends. It only delays rest. When you meet this craving with awareness, you see its emptiness, and you discover that peace is already here, beneath the wanting. The fifth fetter is ill will, a subtle pushing away, a resistance to discomfort, to others, to the self. At night, this can show up as frustration. Why am I still awake? Why did that person treat me like that? These thoughts seem justified, but they keep the heart tense. Forgiveness loosens this fetter, not as a favor to others, but as a gift to your own peace. The sixth is craving for form existence, a deep attachment to being someone in a particular way, wanting to be recognized, remembered, understood. Even when alone, the mind may still perform, still imagine how others perceive you. This is exhausting. Sleep becomes difficult because the act never ends. But when you let go of the need to be someone, even for a moment, a deep rest becomes possible. The seventh fetter is craving for formless existence. This is more subtle. It shows up as a desire to escape, to disappear, to transcend the body or the moment. It's the mind seeking something beyond now. Even spiritual seeking can become this craving, but peace does not come from escape. It comes from fully inhabiting this moment as it is. The eighth is conceit, not arrogance, but comparison, the constant measuring of self against others. Am I progressing? Do others sleep better? Am I falling behind? This comparison is endless. It keeps the heart closed, the mind divided. But when you drop the measuring stick, you return to your own breath, your own path, and that is always enough. The ninth fetter is restlessness, the inability to settle, the feeling that something is missing even when everything seems fine. This is often what keeps the body awake, even when the day is over. It's not a thought, it's a hum, a background buzz of discontent. This is where mindfulness enters as medicine. Each breath, each sensation, a way of slowing down, of saying, "This is enough. I am enough." The 10th and final fetter is ignorance. Not lack of knowledge, but lack of clear seeing. The mind that forgets how things truly are. That thinks things are permanent when they are not. That mistakes thoughts for truth. That believes sleep must be earned. When ignorance fades, understanding grows. You see that the night is not an enemy. That rest is not something to achieve, that peace is not far away. Each of these fetters can be touched in stillness. They show themselves when everything else goes quiet, not to punish you, but to invite you into freedom. Sleep is not a gap in practice. It is part of the path, a nightly chance to see what binds you and to release it, not all at once, not with force, but with kindness, with awareness, with honesty. Tonight, you can reflect gently. Which of these fetters showed up today? Which one lingers now? Can you name it without judgment? Can you sit with it without clinging? Can you loosen your grip, even slightly? You are not expected to be free from all bondage tonight. You are only invited to see what is here, to see what pulls at your peace, and to rest in the seeing. This alone begins the release. Let your breath carry you now. Let it move through the tight places. Let it soften what no longer needs to be held. Let your mind settle not in silence alone, but in wisdom. You are not who you think you are. You are not your restlessness. You are not your craving. You are not your fear. You are the one seeing clearly. Let this clarity be the gateway. Let sleep be the doorway. Let the night become a space of spiritual rest, not just for the body, but for the self you no longer need to be, the self you can now allow to dissolve, gently, quietly, in peace. The fetters have revealed themselves. One by one, you've felt their weight, their habits, their subtle presence in your thoughts and reactions, and in seeing them, something loosened. The mind became lighter, the breath steadier. You remembered that awareness is not a concept, but a lived experience. And now, with the inner space clearer, the doorway to another kind of awareness quietly opens. The doorway into dream time, into the unknown landscapes that unfold behind closed eyes. What happens there is not separate from the path. The mind continues, even in rest. And if you meet it with presence, the dream state becomes not just a passive experience, but a mirror, a reflection, a teaching. In the Zen tradition, the journey of awakening is captured through a series of 10 illustrations called the ox herding pictures. On the surface, they may seem simple, just a boy looking for an ox. But each image is a profound metaphor for the mind's search for truth. The ox is not a literal animal. It is awareness itself, the untamed nature of mind, the one that wanders, resists, hides, runs. And the boy, the seeker, is the part of you that knows something is missing, but hasn't yet understood what. As night deepens and the body prepares for sleep, these pictures become more than poetic teachings. They become maps, not just for enlightenment, but for inner exploration through dreams, through imagery, through subconscious stories. Lucid dreaming practitioners already know that awareness can continue within dreams. But you don't need to control your dreams for them to be meaningful. You only need to be curious about how the inner world reflects your spiritual journey. The first image is the search for the ox. This is the restless stage, the part of you that feels something is missing, even if you can't name it. Before sleep, this is the mental circling, the sense that there is more to do, more to figure out, more to fix. The mind grasps for resolution. But this grasping is the very sign that you are already on the path. The discomfort is not failure, it's the first step. The second picture is the discovery of footprints, the signs that something is there, even if not fully visible. In the context of dream work, this is the noticing of patterns, certain symbols that repeat, certain emotional loops. You begin to see how the subconscious continues the same narratives you believed you left behind in waking life. These are not meaningless images. They are the prints of the ox, the signs that awareness is nearby. The third picture is the sight of the ox. You begin to see the mind as it is, not an enemy, not broken, just wild, powerful, untrained. The dreams become more vivid, more direct. You start to catch yourself in them, noticing that you are dreaming, or at least remembering them more clearly. This clarity is not about control, it's about presence. The ox is no longer hiding. In the fourth picture, the boy captures the ox. This is not domination, it is relationship. You begin to develop a new connection to your inner world. Dreams become less chaotic. There is more coherence. The emotions within them begin to shift. You might notice that your reactions are calmer, that you don't run from fear in the same way, that you're able to stay, even inside discomfort. This is where lucidity can begin. The realization, even briefly, that this is all mind. The fifth picture shows the boy leading the ox home. This is the strengthening of practice. You begin to carry awareness from waking life into dreams and back again. There is continuity. You might find that questions you carry in the day are reflected at night, that insights arrive unprompted, that the mind begins to trust stillness more than noise. This is when sleep becomes spiritual, not just restful. The sixth picture is the ox tamed, calm, resting. There is less chasing now. You are no longer trying to control your inner world. You are sitting with it, observing it, understanding that the mind settles not by force, but by care. This is where dream content becomes healing, where the subconscious begins to reflect qualities like forgiveness, courage, and truth. You wake with clarity, not confusion, not because the dreams are perfect, but because you're no longer resisting them. The seventh picture is the ox forgotten, the self alone. You begin to realize that the search itself was just a phase, that what you were looking for was never separate from you. Even dreams are seen as part of the path, not distractions, but expressions of a deeper unity. You stop needing to analyze everything. You rest in what is. The eighth picture is both self and ox forgotten. Only presence remains. This is rare and subtle. A kind of sleep that leaves no residue. A kind of awareness that needs no commentary. You may experience dreams that feel timeless, spacious, unstructured. You may wake with no memory, but with a deep peace that lingers. This is the mind, free from trying. The ninth picture returns to the world. The seeker is reconnected with form, but without clinging. You wake up, not trying to escape the day, but ready to meet it. Even if the sleep was short, even if the dreams were strange, you are grounded in presence. You are no longer seeking peace, you are living from it. The 10th picture shows the seeker laughing, walking into the village with open hands. The journey is complete. Not because everything is known, but because nothing needs to be controlled. Even the unknown is welcomed. This is what it means to use sleep as practice, not as escape, but as integration. You don't need to memorize these images. You don't need to study them deeply tonight. You only need to let their message settle into your system. The mind moves through stages, seeking, finding, resting, returning. This is true in meditation, in life, and in dreams. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, know that your awareness doesn't end. It changes form. It enters a different field. And if you meet it with curiosity instead of control, it becomes your teacher. Every symbol, every dream character, every emotional tone, these are part of the ox, part of the movement of your own awakening. Let go of the idea that rest must be blank. Let go of the belief that dreams are meaningless. Let the inner world unfold, just as you let the breath unfold. Stay open, stay soft, stay steady. Your sleep is not a break from practice. It is a continuation, a descent into the deeper parts of mind. And with gentleness, presence, and patience, even your dreams can become steps on the path. You are no longer chasing the ox. You are walking with it, into sleep, into truth, into peace. You've now followed the ox into the quiet landscapes of inner experience. You've learned to witness the movement of your own mind, not with force, but with presence. You've seen how awareness can continue even in the dream state, fluid, alert, honest. But before you cross further into rest, there is one last habit the mind often refuses to release: the effort to fall asleep, the quiet, persistent pressure to make it happen. The belief that peace must be earned through control. This is one of the final knots, the invisible struggle that keeps the body tense and the mind busy long after it wants to let go. Effort is necessary in many parts of life, but when it comes to sleep, most of what we call effort is a form of subtle resistance. You try to relax, you try to think of nothing, you try to stop worrying, but trying itself becomes the problem. The harder you try, the further rest seems to drift. You chase it like a shadow, and it keeps slipping away. This is not laziness or weakness. It's a misunderstanding of what effort is meant to be. The Buddha's teaching on right effort, part of the Noble Eightfold Path, brings clarity here. Right effort is not about pushing, it's not about perfection, it's the wise and balanced application of energy. Energy that is gentle, appropriate, and aligned with truth. It knows when to engage and when to let go, when to cultivate and when to rest. And it is this wisdom that makes the difference between effort that supports you and effort that exhausts you. At night, this difference matters most, because the energy you bring into sleep shapes how the body responds. If you bring striving, the body feels it as threat. It stays alert. It watches for results. The breath remains shallow. The nervous system stays guarded. But if you bring the kind of effort rooted in patience and trust, the body receives a different message: that it is safe, that it can release, that there is nothing to prove. Right effort begins with intention, not to force an outcome, but to support conditions. You cannot make sleep happen, but you can cultivate an inner environment that welcomes it. Just like a gardener cannot force a seed to sprout, but can provide water, warmth, and soil. The seed does the rest on its own time. Sleep is the same. This effort includes turning away from harmful inputs, not just stimulation or screens, but also self-criticism. The voice that says you should be sleeping by now, that there must be something wrong with you, that this night will ruin tomorrow. These thoughts are not helpful. Right effort notices them without obeying them. It says, "I see you, but I'm not following you tonight." It also includes cultivating helpful states, calmness, compassion, acceptance. When the mind wanders, you guide it back, not by force, but like a parent guiding a child, gently, consistently, without punishment. You redirect the attention to the breath, to the body, to the present moment, and you do it again, as many times as needed. Not because you're failing, but because this is the practice. Right. Effort also means not overexerting. Many people mistake effort for control. They tighten their muscles. They regulate their breathing manually. They try to suppress every thought. But control is not the same as presence. Control creates tension. Presence allows release. If you notice yourself trying too hard, that's your signal to soften, to shift from doing to being. Being does not mean being passive. It means being real. You rest your attention in the breath, not because it will lead to sleep, but because the breath is always true. You feel your body not to fix it, but to know it. You meet your mind as it is, not as you want it to be. This is right effort, the quiet willingness to stay connected without controlling what comes next. There is also a time to stop effort altogether, to let go even of the practice, to allow things to unfold without watching them. This is the final layer of surrender. When effort has done its part, you step back. Not with frustration, with trust. Trust that the system knows what to do. That awareness doesn't need to hold every moment. That rest arrives when you stop waiting for it. In this way, sleep becomes a teacher. It shows you your limits. It mirrors your attachment to outcome. It reveals where you still hold too tightly, and it invites you again and again into the balance of right effort. The balance of trying without grasping, of caring without clinging, of releasing without escaping. You can reflect now. What effort am I bringing into this moment? Is it the kind that supports release, or the kind that tightens the body? Can I soften just 1% more? Can I let go of the idea that I must sleep and instead return to presence just as it is? The practice becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. When the mind drifts, return. When the body tenses, breathe. When thoughts arise, observe. When frustration builds, forgive. Over and over, until the loop dissolves, until there is just being, until effort fades into stillness. This is not passive. This is powerful, because it requires trust in the body, in the process, in life. And trust is one of the most courageous things you can offer yourself. So now, rest in that courage. The courage to not try so hard. The courage to not need to succeed at sleep. The courage to be with what is, without judgment. This is the core of right effort. Balanced, steady, aligned with peace. And from this alignment, rest is not forced. It is allowed. It arises not because you chased it, but because you made space for it. Like clouds parting, like water settling, like breath returning to its natural rhythm. Let yourself remain in that rhythm now, not chasing, not planning, not achieving, just breathing, just resting, just being. And let sleep come as it always has, quietly, in its own time, on its own terms. You are ready. You are safe. You are enough. There is nothing more to do. Let this effort end. Let sleep begin. You've just released the need to force rest. You've dropped the pressure to achieve sleep as if it were a task to complete or a standard to meet. You've touched the deeper rhythm of right effort, wise, balanced, kind to the present moment. And even in that soft letting go, even in the surrender, there may still be something quietly agitating the mind, something not as loud as panic or stress, but persistent enough to keep the system from fully settling. The mind may not be racing, but it's not fully quiet either. You're not resisting the moment, but peace hasn't yet taken its full seat. So what's still here? What keeps the heart from fully opening to rest? In Buddhist psychology, there are 5 mental factors known as the hindrances. These are not defects. They're not personal failures. They are simply habitual energies that obstruct clarity and calm. They tend to arise most obviously during practice, especially in meditation, and especially when you try to rest. You sit, you breathe, You lie down, and suddenly they arrive, each one with its own flavor, each one claiming your attention, each one quietly pushing sleep just out of reach. When you don't understand them, they control you, but when you recognize them clearly, they begin to lose their grip. The first is sensual desire. This isn't limited to physical craving. It's the pull towards stimulation of any kind, the need for more comfort, more pleasure, more distraction. At night, it can show up as the urge to check your phone again, the desire for background noise, the plan to get out of bed for a snack or one last scroll. The mind says, just a little more, promising it will help you relax. But it never does. Sensual desire keeps the attention pointed outward. It convinces you that peace lies in getting something else rather than being with what's already here. To meet this hindrance, don't shame it. See it. Acknowledge the pull. Feel it in the body, the restlessness in the fingers, the urge in the throat or belly, and then gently return. Remind yourself that satisfaction doesn't live at the end of another scroll, that the peace you're looking for is quieter than any screen, simpler than any flavor. Let the breath be enough. Let the stillness hold you, even if the craving lingers. You don't need to satisfy it. You only need to stop obeying it. The second hindrance is ill will, a pushing away, a rejection of what is. It shows up as irritation, frustration, resentment. Not always loud, sometimes subtle. A quiet, "This isn't how it should be," whispered beneath every breath. You might feel it toward the room, the noises outside, your own body, or even yourself. The judgment that says, "Why am I still awake? This is ridiculous. I'm failing again." That inner harshness doesn't resolve the moment. It amplifies the discomfort. To work with ill will, bring in metta, loving kindness, not as a technique, but as a shift in attitude. You can say gently, "This is hard, and I choose to meet it with care." You can feel the tension in your jaw or chest and breathe into it without trying to fix it. Just stay. Just soften. Remind yourself that nothing needs to be perfect, that this moment is already good enough to hold you. You're not wrong for feeling what you feel, but you don't have to keep feeding the fight. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor. This one is tricky, because at bedtime, sleepiness seems natural. But this hindrance is not about healthy fatigue. It's about a foggy, dull, heavy mind. A mental laziness that pretends to be rest, but actually blocks deep relaxation. You may feel like you're drifting, but not really landing. Like the mind is disengaged rather than truly still. This hindrance often arises when awareness has faded, when mindfulness has become too weak to stay present. The antidote here is gentle re-engagement, not force, just a slight return of interest. You can focus more clearly on the breath. You can bring attention to the sensations of the body on the bed. You can ask yourself, am I truly resting, or am I escaping awareness? Bring just enough clarity back to the moment, not to wake up, but to wake into the experience of rest itself. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and remorse. This is the spinning mind, the one that replays conversations, that rehashes the past, that plans for tomorrow, that worries about things beyond your reach. It's not always anxious. Sometimes it's just busy. But the result is the same. The mind won't stop moving. You lie still, but inside, everything is racing. To meet this hindrance, you need grounding, attention back in the body, in the breath, in contact points, in sound. Sometimes labeling can help. Thinking, planning, remembering, just naming what the mind is doing without reacting to it. You don't have to stop the movement. You only have to not get caught in it. Let the thoughts pass like clouds. Return again and again to the breath, the body, the now. Sometimes remorse adds to the restlessness. Thoughts about things you regret, words you wish you hadn't said, things you forgot. This is the mind's attempt to correct the past by revisiting it. But no amount of spinning will change it. Forgiveness does. You can say, I see that. I forgive myself. Tomorrow is a new page. You don't need the past to be perfect to rest tonight. You only need to stop carrying it. The fifth and final hindrance is doubt, the questioning mind, but not the kind that seeks truth, the kind that stalls it. Is this working? Should I be doing something else? Will I ever fall asleep? Maybe I'm just not good at this. These thoughts sound intelligent, but they're rooted in uncertainty, and they feed anxiety. Doubt pulls your energy away from the moment and into speculation, and speculation has no ground to rest on. To respond to doubt, return to simplicity. Don't argue with it. Don't try to solve it. Come back to what's here. The breath, the body, the warmth of the blanket. Let this moment be your answer. You don't need to resolve the doubt. Just don't feed it. You can say inwardly, I don't need to know. I only need to stay. All 5 hindrances arise from a misunderstanding of what it means to rest. They believe peace is something you earn, something you get, something you control. But rest is what remains when the grasping stops, when the mind stops arguing, when you stop needing things to be different. There is no need to eliminate the hindrances entirely. They are not enemies. They are simply weather, passing states. Their presence is not failure. Their awareness is already progress. When you can see them clearly, you are no longer owned by them. And when you stop resisting them, they lose their power. So tonight, as you rest, stay curious. If the mind becomes busy, ask gently, which of the hindrances is here now? Not to judge it, just to name it, and then breathe. Feel the bed. Let your body be your home. Let your breath be your anchor. Let your awareness stay close. The hindrances may rise again, but now you know their names, you know their tricks, and you know that you don't have to follow them. You can stay here, resting in presence, trusting that even when the mind moves, you are already on the path. You are already home. Let the breath deepen now. Let the tension soften. Let the thoughts pass like birds in the sky. No chasing, no grasping, just breath, just rest. Just this moment, quiet and complete. Let the hindrances dissolve on their own. Let sleep come when it's ready. There is nothing to fix, nothing to force, only presence and peace. You've come face to face with the 5 hindrances. You've seen how they appear not as abstract teachings, but as familiar, lived experiences: craving, aversion, dullness, agitation, and doubt, arising silently in the quietest hours. You've named them. You've softened around them. You've learned that awareness, not control, is the way through. And as the mind starts to settle and the emotional winds quiet, another subtle influence begins to reveal itself. It is not loud or dramatic, but it's present in every restless turn, every lingering thought, every flicker of attention that refuses to settle. It is the unguarded flood of sense experience, and until it is addressed, stillness will remain just out of reach. The Buddha often spoke of the sense doors, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, as gateways. What flows in through them shapes the inner world. Each sense is not just a passive receiver. It conditions how the mind moves, what it clings to, what it avoids, and how deeply it can rest. Guarding the sense doors does not mean shutting down the senses. It means watching them with care, knowing when to allow in and when to step back. At night, this skill becomes essential. Because the body may lie still, the breath may slow, but if the senses are left open and unattended, the mind continues to feed on their impressions. Sight is the most active of the senses. Even behind closed eyelids, the residue of what you've seen throughout the day can continue playing. Images linger, faces, screens, light patterns, movement. Visual memory is sticky, and when left unchecked, it reactivates the thinking mind. That's why dimming lights matters. That's why avoiding intense visual input before bed makes a difference, not as a rule, but as kindness. As you settle, let the eyes not just close, but relax. Let the muscles around them soften. Let the inner screen fade. No need to replay, no need to visualize. Let sight return to stillness. Hearing is just as potent. Even subtle sounds can stimulate the mind. A distant car, a creak in the wall, the hum of electronics. But it's not the sound itself that disturbs. It's the mind's reaction to it. What was that? Should I check? That reminds me. And the story begins. Guarding the sense door of hearing means noticing sound without following it. Letting it be what it is, impermanent, impersonal, passing through. You can meet each sound with the phrase, just sound, just hearing. No need to analyze or label, no need to resist. Awareness includes the sound and moves on. Smell and taste are quieter at night, but they still carry memory. A scent from the pillow, a lingering flavor. These can trigger associations, pleasant or not, that invite the mind back into story. If a smell brings warmth, enjoy it. If it stirs tension, acknowledge it. But stay grounded in the body, not in thought. Let these senses return to neutrality. Let them rest, just like the rest of you. The body is its own sense door. Physical sensations can anchor you or agitate you. An itch, a tight muscle, a warm blanket, the touch of fabric. These are direct experiences. When awareness rests here, the mind has less reason to wander. But the trick is not to obsess, it's to observe. Noticing sensation as sensation without turning it into commentary. There is warmth, there is pressure, there is breath. This is the body's way of reminding you that you are here, not in your thoughts, but in this moment. The sixth sense door, in Buddhist terms, is the mind itself. Thoughts, emotions, mental images, plans. These arise not from external input, but from internal conditions. Guarding this door is perhaps the most subtle practice of all, because the mind often sneaks past awareness. It convinces you that its voice is necessary, important, urgent. But you've already begun to see that this isn't true. The mind's movements can be observed, watched like a river flowing. You don't need to dam it. You only need to sit on the bank still. To guard the sense doors is not a restriction. It is an act of protection, like closing windows before a storm. not to shut out the world, but to keep the inside space safe and clear. You can still feel, still listen, still breathe, but you're no longer pulled outward. Your energy returns to its center. This practice is not about fear, it is about discernment. Knowing what leads to peace and what leads to more thinking. What settles the nervous system and what activates it. You begin to choose, not through control, but through wisdom. You don't need to fix everything. You only need to be clear about what you allow your attention to feed on. As you lie in bed, take a moment to check in with each door. Are the eyes soft? Are the ears relaxed? Is the body calm? Are thoughts being watched with gentle interest? You don't need perfect silence. You don't need complete stillness. You only need the willingness to turn inward. Sometimes this practice alone brings the mind into deep rest. Because most of what keeps you awake is not the day itself, but the residue of what the senses absorbed. News, conversations, screens, noise, stimulation. These don't just disappear, they linger. Unless they're released. Mindfulness is the release, not by pushing away, but by noticing and letting be. You can use the breath to assist in this. Breathing in, I gather my awareness. Breathing out, I soften and close the doors. With each cycle, a little more energy returns to center. A little less is scattered outward. You reclaim your ground. And when the senses are quieted, the mind doesn't have as much to react to. Proliferation slows. Thoughts don't disappear, but they become lighter, less urgent, less sticky. You begin to remember what peace feels like. Not dramatic, not blissful, just steady, simple, enough. This is the quiet space that supports rest, the space where nothing is chasing you, where no door is left swinging open, where you are no longer pulled in 6 directions, but gathered, whole, safe. Let this become your final check-in before sleep. Not a task, not a ritual, just awareness gently scanning, closing what's open, soothing what's stirred, returning home. And from this place, let rest unfold, not as something you chase, but as something that comes when there is nothing left in the way. The doors are guarded, the world has quieted, and your awareness, now unburdened, can finally settle into stillness, into depth, into peace. Let it. You've now walked through more than 3 hours of timeless teachings, one breath, one truth, one letting go at a time. You've touched the core of what keeps you awake, not just in the body, but in the heart. And you've been gently shown another way. You've learned that rest doesn't come from solving everything. It comes from no longer needing to. That sleep isn't a reward for productivity, but a sacred return to presence. You've seen how the mind spins through craving, clinging, regret, comparison, fear, and control. And you've learned that awareness, not force, is what brings freedom. From the law of dependent origination to the 5 hindrances, from the soft wisdom of the Brahmaviharas to the fierce clarity of the ox-herding journey, you now carry with you the tools to meet each night with compassion and clarity. This wasn't just about sleep, it was about remembering who you are when all the noise fades. And now, it's your turn to reflect. What touched you most? Which teaching will you carry into your next night? What old habit are you ready to release, gently, without guilt? Let us know in the comments. Speak from the heart. Your words might be the light someone else needs before bed. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Not to chase peace, but to be reminded of it. Because sometimes all it takes is a voice in the dark saying, "You're safe. You can let go now." Thank you for being here.
Rest well, sleep deeply.
And may your nights be lighter from now on.